Welcome in. It is Friday, and I think all of us need Friday. I know some of you might not know really what day of the week it is, but you always get a sense of the weekend is here. And honestly, I think a bunch of us who have stressed either getting coronavirus or stressed not having a job or stressed not knowing how you're going to make ends meet, and rent's going to be due here in just a little bit. Today is March the 27th, so we're talking next week. We're all going to have to figure out a way to pay the bills. And I know you can sit back. There's going to be places you can play golf this week if that is what you are into. I believe that the green line is still open if you want to take a nice long walk. And I will say my wife and I, it's been very nice. We've actually taken a bunch of long walks together during the morning time. But embrace the weekend and try to let all the fears go for a little bit and enjoy, indeed, if you can. Brad, I think we have seen a glimpse of the sport's future, and believe it or not, leading the way are the Major League Baseball owners and their players union. They actually have just come to an agreement about the way this thing will unfold, if indeed there will be a start to the 2020 season. Good afternoon. I hope things find you in good health.
I am in good health, Dave, and same for you and one and all, and hope that's the main thing. If we can stay healthy, then we can come out the other side of this in some shape, form, or fashion. You know, Major League Baseball and the Players Association, they've reached a deal. It always feels like it takes some pandemic or global event to get them together. They were set. They were ready to go on strike in September of 2001, and then that ushered in the longest run of Major League Baseball labor peace, and now today will bring it if indeed we have a season. Mookie Betts may never play one pitch as a member of the Los Angeles Dodgers, though.
Well, and the reason behind that, why do you say that?
We don't have sports this year. There's no games.
Oh, at this point.
And then he'll be a free agent.
Oh, that point is true. I get where you're going, where you're coming from. Let's sort of go over this agreement because I find it very interesting indeed, and some of it goes back to the conversation we had with Tim Doolin yesterday. But there will be the season would not start until each of the following conditions are met. There are no bans on mass gatherings that would limit the ability to play in front of fans. So take out any empty baseball stadiums like they did for a short period of time in Japan. However, the commissioner could still consider the use of appropriate substitute neutral sites where economically feasible. But
spring
again,
training facilities.
That would at least be a place where you would have some fans. Mm-hmm. There are no travel restrictions throughout the United States and Canada. In other words, we have travel across the border. We have travel throughout the United States. Also, medical experts determined that there would be no health risk for players, staff, or fans, with the commissioners and the union still able to revisit the idea of playing in empty stadiums at a later period of time. While there was no formal framework in the agreement, owners and players both said they want to play as many games as possible. They would have a lot of flexibility. Both sides seem to be willing to extend the regular season into October, playing neutral site playoff games in November, and they would add doubleheaders to the schedule. It does not say whether those would be 7-inning games or not. Players pushed to receive a full year of service time, which Tim Doolin was right on it yesterday. He said that's more important than the money for this year. And he said that they would definitely take a hard stand on that, and they must have because now we know they would get a full year of service time, which counts toward their free agency. It counts for arbitration. It counts for their pension in the event that we have a totally canceled season. When Major League Baseball agreed to that, the path to the deal came together soon, and everybody was on board. The union agreed not to sue the league for full salaries in the event there is not a 2020 season.
Yeah, and like most big sports labor deals, it really comes down to about one or two issues, and everything else is just green eye shade. It kind of fills in the blanks. Usually it's return, the return for the players, the profit part of the negotiations. In this case, it was all about the year of service, and when they got that, everybody was simple to agree on things. It usually comes down to one or two things, and they got their big thing. But the fear of no sports this year it's very real.
It is very real. And I will tell you that today I looked hard at a graph that was put out by Dr. Manoj Jain, who we had on, and we'll try to get him on in the next week or so again. He was so insightful, and he is the consultant to the city when it comes to the medical side of coronavirus and our response. It also it was a joint effort between Dr. Jain and two other doctors. One, I believe, was from Emory in Atlanta, and the other, I also think, was from the state of Georgia. But basically, they had this graph which, pointed out if we were to open the country back too soon, what spikes we might have. And there was a graph with a red line for that and a orange line if we continue at the path we're on now, which is not a total shutdown quarantine, but it is the basically stay safer at home, the shelter in place philosophy that we are under at this very moment. And either way you look at the graph, though, Brett, the thing that struck me is depending on which path we take, the curve up goes higher and higher. But the end of the curve, in other words, when you get back to where you were 3 weeks ago, that graph, either way you do it. Of course, there would be a lot more life if you just opened up the economy and everybody went back to work right away. But either way, that graph shows we don't return to the sort of normalcy that we had 3 weeks ago until September.
Yeah, you keep hearing more and more just push back by the day. And if we ever return, and we were talking off the air today about if indeed on the doomsday scenario, the last sporting event for 2020 was golf balls in the air at the TPC at the Players Championship, that was it. Who it would really impact? And naturally, it would be anybody of the veteran, older type player. And I mentioned to you, if one group that it would affect, if we have no more sports this year, no more mass gatherings, and everybody very reluctant to do it, and economically it led to that. Well, the Triple Crown races for horses, because those 3-year-old horses next year, they'll be 4, and guess what? The 2-year-olds this year, they're going to want to run next year.
That, and I hadn't thought about it, but that is a group of elite athletes, you could say, that would be
and owners
just out of luck, and owners who would also lose, because let's face it, you race these days not necessarily because this horse is going to win you a lot of money on the racetrack. You do hope that, but you also know that if that horse is anywhere near successful, particularly in the Triple Crown Series, then you will make it up in breeding on the other side, and there would not be that chance. Now it would be a much bigger gamble for sure. But if we take a look at just that premise, who are the athletes that stand to lose the most if we have no more sports, or even if we lose events, major events? Well, you would have to think the first person that comes to my mind, of course, because I'm such a golf fan, is Tiger Woods. We only have 4 majors every year, and he's at 15. He's trying to get past 18 in Jack Nicklaus, and he got one last year. Very few win in their late 40s. The oldest guy to win a U.S. Open was Hale Irwin at 45. The oldest one to win a Masters was Jack Nicklaus at 46 in 1986. The last guy to do it, I think was it 90 or 95 that Hale Irwin won his Open at the age of 90, 45.
But
90.
Julius Burris won a PGA at 48.
He did. He's the oldest. He's the oldest at 48 to win a major. So Tiger Woods probably would be the athlete that could hear the clock ticking louder than anybody else. I would throw LeBron James in. There are many who think
Tom Brady,
that Tom Brady's in there.
Drew Brees.
Drew Brees, definitely. Those seasons, though, at least at this point, haven't been canceled. But LeBron's got a chance this year with his Lakers team, and many think that they would win the West. That he's trying to get as many titles as he possibly can to keep up with the likes of Kobe, or to keep up with the likes of Michael, or to keep up with the likes of those great Celtics teams of Bill Russell. And what, Bill's got 11. Nobody's going to get that again, I don't think. But the bottom line is he's only got so many chances. I know he'll have a good team again next year, but if he loses this opportunity to get another one of those rings, it's one he can't get back. He could be, with Tiger, another one of the big losers from this thing.
And Dave, we don't know what the atrophy effect will have if you just miss the entire year. You can work out all you want, but it's nothing like real game action. We don't know what the atrophy effect have. Older coaches, I mean, I don't know this, but with the year he just went through, and we've seen public bouts of health issues. Roy Williams, does he want to keep the fight up? Does Mike Krzyzewski in his 70s, Jim Boeheim in his 70s, coaches around college football? Here's one, and I'm not trying to be a wise guy here, but here's one. He could get fired at the end of this year with no games played, but they would have to pay him for this year just simply because it makes his buyout that much cheaper next year, and they wanted to fire him last year, and that's Clay Helton.
Absolutely. How about this? How about
go 0-0 and get fired?
That's crazy. Let's take a look at Olympic athletes. How about a guy, and his last name escapes me at the moment. He was Michael Phelps' biggest rival on the American team. Ryan
Lisicky.
What now?
Lisicky.
Ryan Lisicky?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. He will be a year older than he normally would have been.
Right.
I mean, the clock is definitely ticking on him. It was a stretch for years already. To go 5 years, does that hurt his chances?
Serena Williams.
Perfect example there. Serena Williams, she's, I'm hoping they will figure out a way to come up with an Australian Open, but
they've already played it.
Yeah, they have. But they've already lost the French, and I don't believe they've canceled Wimbledon yet. But that's around the corner. That's July. There's a good chance. But Roland Garros has already been postponed, so there's a chance that you would have
Pete Sampras. Not Pete Sampras, but Federer.
Roger Federer. Yeah, absolutely. Well,
Pete Sampras has been done. I'm sorry.
Well, Roger Federer actually he was not going to play Roland Garros anyway. Now this might give him another chance to play Roland Garros. But think
again,
of the
atrophy effect.
They're going to talk about playing Roland Garros right after they play the U.S. Open. You're going to go from hard courts to the clay without any kind of tune-ups, and they wouldn't be able to. They'd have to go from major to major, a 2-week break, and right onto that surface without warm-ups. Wow. And that's hard to do. So
it is.
we are seeing the tennis people, Serena and Federer, even for that degree Nadal, because there's not much time for him between those things, and he's not a spring chicken either. I mean, that is really difficult. The clock is definitely ticking loud for those people.
And around baseball, there are older players, coming back for one more year. Another NFL guy that comes to mind would be Larry Fitzgerald. Just
how
many more times for the off-season grind?
Yeah, or any kind of running back that was just sort of holding on. You wondered how good they would be. That you've seen their numbers diminish a little bit, and now, because you need that burst. There's another year if they didn't get this game this season in. Those are things that certainly make you really take notice for sure. News coming out now, Shaka Smart's going to return as the Texas head coach. So if Tiger fans had hopes for Greg Brown, that might have been diminished a little bit because I do think that Greg Brown's dad is a big fan of Shaka Smart. So for those of you keeping score at home on transfer portals and recruiting news and things of that nature, that is the story of today.
This hour brought to you every day by Lexus of Memphis, 2600 Ridgeway, and online at lexusofmemphis.com. Give them a call at 901-362-8833. Lexus of Memphis offering the Golden Opportunity Sales Event. Great offers on all 2020 models and always on special lease options. If you've ever thought I'd look great in a Lexus, well, guess what? Lexus of Memphis thinks you would look great in a Lexus as well. Drive in luxury and confidence knowing that every new Lexus comes with complimentary first and second maintenance services. Stop by today at Lexus of Memphis at 2600 Ridgeway and put yourself in the driver's seat of an all-new 2020 flagship LS500, and you'll be looking and driving in style. Lexus of Memphis, the highest standards in the industry. When you purchase a Lexus, you get top-of-the-line engineering and design, and that makes for the luxury driving experience. Online at lexusofmemphis.com, 901-362-8833. Experience amazing at Lexus of Memphis.
Top story of the day.
Well, here's the numbers from the coronavirus dashboard. As we speak, 568,238 cases around the world. The United States with 9,305, the top amount of cases now around the world. We mentioned that last night as we were going off the air. 26,767 fatalities now. It is alarming how many in Italy. 9,134, over 10%.
10.5% in Italy
who have gotten the virus.
1.5 here.
That is absolutely incredible. In Shelby County, 223 cases now, and we find that 2,218 people have been tested. So, Brett, roughly 10% of those that have been tested have the coronavirus. 313 in the metro. In the state of Tennessee, 1,142. That's up 44 from when we spoke yesterday. In DeSoto County, they're up 28%, 63 now there. Our friend, and this really saddens me to say it, I don't believe that that she has a very bad case of it, but our friend Doris Burke from ESPN said on a webcast or a podcast with Woj earlier today that she has caught the COVID-19.
I didn't know that. Dave, I'm sorry. I gave the wrong name for the swimming competitor, and Texter corrects me. Ryan Lochte. I said Ryan Lasicki.
Yeah.
And that was
I couldn't think of the name.
I'm sorry.
That's all right. I couldn't think of the name. I didn't think Lasecki was right.
I think
there was a Lasecki who was a gymnast.
It was. Yeah. Dave, I don't know what this means that I'm getting ready to say. You tell me. I don't know how much it matters, and I'm not trying to be argument. I'm just going to throw this out there. We have, sadly, 1.5% deaths now in the United States. We do now have 3% recovered. Does that mean anything? I truly ask that.
That's truly a great question. The only thing that I can tell you is I don't think we have enough numbers. We've only gotten 3, as you said, 3% recovered out of all those. How many more are to come? Because one of the toughest things that I see is that we did not get the testing that South Korea got. We just were not prepared for the amount,
but we made up a lot of tests.
We have, as I just said, we've had over a little over 2,200 now in Shelby County, and we do have the drive-throughs that are in operation. But I would say to you, I don't think we've had enough numbers in to really know if that really
I'd
matters.
agree with that.
I will say this, because we keep an eye on it every day. 191 of the 195 countries now in the world have been affected. There have been cases in 191 out of the 195. Do not ask me which 4 have not had it.
Don't ask me either.
I know
I've already blown Brian Lasecki today.
Everybody in the world is going to try to go to those countries. There's no question about that. And the final thing is, I check this every day just for some sense of hope, and that is how many have recovered in China, which is basically 90 days about or so ahead of us, and 92% of those in China have now recovered.
Yeah, with my standing proviso is I don't believe one thing the Chinese government says.
I hear you. I hear you.
My top story, Kirk Herbstreit with the shot heard around college football and around the sports world today. And I don't know why it's getting so much blowback and why he's getting really ripped by some. The man was asked a question. He answered it. He's not a bomb thrower. He never has been. He's not trying to get hits or Twitter followers. He's got plenty of both of those. But it's been met with a lot of shock and in a lot of cases some contempt. But he said he would be surprised if we had college football this year. I would be very surprised if we have college, actual brick and mortar college this fall. I think it will be very hard for administrators, scared to death of the repercussions of putting a lot of people in a dorm, a lot of people in a classroom, a lot of people in a stadium, a lot of people in a lecture hall, whatever it is. I think it'll be very hard for administrators to do that. They already run very, very scared to begin with on on-campus hot-button issues, and now the biggest health issue of all of our lifetime, quite literally a global pandemic. I don't know why Kirk Herbstreit's getting battered around today. He was asked a question. He gave his opinion, and I think he's right.
Well, he could be.
I don't like the opinion. I wish it was different.
Yeah, I'm not sure that he is right, because I'll go back again. If we're 90 days different or less, some say 60 to 70, but if we're using China as a model that's 92% recovered today, and you just go 90 days and a few days, I'll even add some days, you're talking all of April, all of May, all of June, and you should be in the 90 percentile recovery. And you've flattened, you've gone through the spike, and you've come back to where the graph was, as Dr. Jane and his cohort said in September. I think it'll be close, and you may have to delay, but you could be right about the first semester where regular students will be going online. Second semester, they would be able to return to buildings. But I think if you could do that, and as long as the number is added to on the mass gatherings, if it's over 100 or whatever it may be, I do think then you can at least start practicing. And I think there's a good shot that we'll get college football in. But I could understand how somebody on the conservative side would say that, and I'm not saying they're wrong totally. I just kind of think by September the 1st we'll be close enough. We may have to delay, and as we talked about this yesterday, maybe the answer would be play only conference games, play 9 of those. But I'm going to be bullish, and I'm going to say I think we will get college football. I certainly hope that is the case.
Not top story of the day.
Well, this is tough for poor Davis Love III. He has this gorgeous home on St. Simon's Island. And Brad, I don't know if you've seen the picture. The good news on this is no one was hurt. The bad news is that house, that gorgeous house on St. Simon's Island.
It went quickly.
Whoa. Did you see the picture of it in flames? Oh, my gosh.
Just tinderbox. They called emergency personnel like at 5:40 or so this morning, and it was done before they could get out there.
It was. I mean, it is totally lost.
But no one injured.
No one
I like
was
Davis
hurt.
Love
Yeah,
too.
I do too, and I'm thankful for Davis Love and his family that he just lost some possessions. I'm sure he lost trophies and those kinds of wonderful memories that you have. But honestly, no one was hurt in that family. No loss of life at all. Just tremendous in that regard. And I know Davis Love spoke about those that were first responders and all that tried to come to his aid. that really, he appreciated that. I know he lost, but I think he has a great deal of appreciation for that.
My not top story, Roger Goodell issued an edict. Draft and NFL rolls on, and if you're a league employee, you better toe the line and keep your mouth shut.
Never a guy to be diplomatic, is he? How was he a lawyer?
Not much.
How was he a lawyer? How did he ever deal with sensitive stuff? How did he ever become the commissioner?
I tell you how he did. He's not much for sensitivity. That's how.
Well, he made him money. That's why he stays in the job. That's for sure. It's certainly not with an ability to deflect or to be warm and fuzzy like Adam Silver can sometimes be. That is for certain. We are busy today. Those are your top and your not top stories. Bruce Marshall from the Gold Sheet will be here at 3:30. I am really looking forward to our interview at 4 o'clock because I think we are going to learn a whole bunch here. Ted Evanoff, who writes business for the Commercial Appeal. I've been reading him for years. I always learn something from Ted. He'll join us on a number of different things, particularly about what's going on with our economy in Memphis, our unemployment, how he sees things happening, and maybe he'll have some words of advice for us. At 4:30, Peter Edmiston will join us. We'll talk, who knows what we'll talk about with him, but it'll be some on the coronavirus and some on the NBA. Andy Schiffman, our agent in Chicago, will catch up with him at 5 o'clock. Then, of course, we always end the show at 5:50 with Crunch Time. I got to tell you, I got a lovely note from Rob Ritchie, who was a guest on our show yesterday at 5:30. He said that he had, because remember, he had put this thing out where he would give you a free interview to see how your interview skills were. He would look over your resume and give you a little bit of recommendation as to how you could get it better. And then he would do your resume at half price while people are in this crisis mode. He said he had 163 requests for the promo that was offered yesterday by 9:15 this morning. And since then, he said he's had several more. 163 by 9:15 in the morning. Folks, we thank you for listening. We know you are out there. We take the time out. We'll be back in just 1 minute. I'll let you know this portion of the show is brought to you by the commissary, the wonderful commissary by the railroad tracks in the heart of Germantown. That's the Germantown commissary. They're still
You see
open.
the nice note on the text line?
I did not.
I'll read it as part of the commissary, Germantown
Please.
and Collierville spot. Let me share
Please
with
do.
you a real positive. Went to the drive-through window at the commissary in Collierville, worked perfectly, and everyone should put it on their bucket list during these times. As you just said, for our listeners, we appreciate more than we can possibly tell you. Thank you for that text.
Thank you. Yes, for sure. And I know Walker Taylor and all his people are really, really happy that you are still enjoying their product because they're going all the way. They're going with 120% effort to make sure that their employees still have jobs and that food is still coming for you to enjoy. At both locations, the drive-through that was talked about in Collierville, and of course the curbside service, they're bringing it out to you in the heart of Germantown. You still want ribs, you still want shoulder, you still want chicken, you still want tamales, whatever you may want, banana pudding, or Brett's favorite, the icebox lemon pie. All that's still there for you at both locations, Germantown Commissary and the Collierville Commissary at Poplar and Houston Levee Road. Back in a minute, we go to Vegas. Our friend Bruce Marshall is next on Sports Time on Sports 56 with Wolo and Stats.
The word is out about R&R on Sports, where you've heard interviews from
Ken Griffith Jr., Dr. J, Hank Aaron, and many, many more.
right here, R&R on Sports, Saturday mornings, 9 a.m., Sports 56, 96.1, and 87.7.
Don't miss it.
You'll see the dedication in every single step. You'll see it in the smiles when smiles are hard to get. You'll see it in the little things that add up to success. The caring and passion are the things that we love best.
Wolf Chase Limb Brace is your Mid-South provider for orthotics and prosthetics. They are an ABC-accredited facility, and their practitioners are ABC certified. At Wolf Chase Limb Brace, their services include artificial limbs, legs and arms, braces of all kinds, and custom molded inserts. You can call them today at 901-507-7821 for their location on Highway 64 in between Germantown Parkway and Appling Road, or visit them at their new location in Jackson, Tennessee. That number is 731-660-5900, or visit them on the web at wolfchaselemonbrace.com.
Dedicated our life to yours. Wolf Chase Limb and Brace.
At Indeed, we understand that when it comes to hiring, it's important to have a large talent pool to choose from. But sometimes too many good options can be overwhelming. That's why Indeed doesn't just give you access to a large pool of job seekers. We also offer screener tools that let you instantly narrow down your search. Hone in on hiring with Indeed. Experience Indeed for yourself today and get a free sponsored job upgrade on your first posting at Indeed.com/promo. Terms and conditions apply.
Bartlett Small Engine has been serving quality power equipment since 1970. They have a full line of power equipment, parts, and services for most makes and models. Bartlett Small Engines has the best brands in the power tool industry: Honda mowers, trimmers, and generators, Steel blowers, trimmers, and chainsaws, Echo trimmers, blowers, and chainsaws, plus quality products from Red Mat and Shindawa. And they're all American made. Bartlett Small Engine is your can-do store. 6780 Summer Avenue. Call 901-386-9779.
Now, back to Sports Time on Sports 56 with Wolo and Stats. This hour of Sports Time is brought to you by Lexus of Memphis. Here once again are Dave Woloshin and Brad Norsworthy.
We like to party.
Welcome back in as we cruise through our first hour. A reminder, and I heard the spot a little while ago, Pink Palace Museum not open. But when it does, you've got to go see the Tiger Hoops exhibit right there at the Pink Palace. And I know it's going to be until September. Maybe they will extend it once they open, because they clearly are not open at the moment. But this is the cool deal, 100 years of Tiger men's and women's basketball from the beginnings as West Tennessee State Normal all the way to the present. You don't want to miss it. Again, it opened up March 7th. It was there for a couple of weeks, and now they've had to close. But the Pink Palace will reopen, and when they do, you've got to go see this really cool deal. 100 years of Tigers. Tigers Hoop Exhibit is what it is officially called. We always enjoy talking to our friend in Las Vegas. Let's ask how things are going there. Bruce Marshall from the Gold Sheet joins us now. Sometimes, in our busy schedules, we sort of take each other for granted. You've been doing a show with me for I don't know how many years Brett does, but I truly appreciate it, and I
since 1992, Dave.
92. So we're talking 28 years. I know you've had a lot of grandkids since then. I just hope everybody in your family is safe and healthy right now, Bruce.
Yeah, likewise to you guys too. And I'll tell you, just look on the bright side. I've had a different metric now to measure good days. I've lowered the bar somewhat, but I figure usually I go out in the morning to the market, and it's kind of nice. I got there the other morning, and they said, from 7 to 8 a.m. you've got to be 60 plus to go in. And I thought, hey, wait a minute, I'm 60 plus. That's not bad. So I got to go in. I figure as long as nobody comes up to me and says, hey, aren't you Paul Feinbaum? Then it's a good day.
I bet. I can understand that. I've been meaning to ask, because we have not taken advantage. I'm over 60 as well. And I know at Home Market we have that first hour devoted to seniors. I know, like Target, I think, has it 8 to 9, their first hour. I think it's only on Wednesdays. When you go for that first hour, is it well stocked? Because I'm thinking you really got the advantage. Not only are you the first one in because you're old enough and only so many people are eligible to go if they're really watching that thing closely, but it should be you got the first crack at everything. Is that true?
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, most things are up there, and it's not. They've been doing this for the last week or so now, and it's like every day. I don't go every day, but I mean it's less. Yesterday morning when I went, there was less people that were there. Monday morning. So I mean, and generally it seems to be thinning out at the store somewhat. But yeah, early in the morning, the shelves are pretty well stocked, and you can get most anything you need.
What if
Bruce, the NBA has talked about maybe having everybody, particularly NBA playoff potential participants, come to one central location and maybe try to put on the games. LeBron James has shot it down. He said there's not a chance he's doing that, but maybe a lockdown place. Vegas has been mentioned because the number of outbreaks and cases in Nevada and in Las Vegas are much lower metric than most of the rest of the country. Could that ever work? And they put them on like summer league games and a tournament, anything like that serious?
It could. I mean, I'm sure they're thinking about it. I mean, I saw Mark Cuban the other day, just in general, on the interview, and he was saying he thinks the NBA will get back and play without fans, and I think that's sort of a given. We're going to have to play without fans wherever it is for a while at least. But he thought as soon as the league, he could see that sometime later in spring. They'll have to clear out any of the corona cases that are among players before they think about that. But it's possible, and Las Vegas would be a place they could do it because they have two facilities adjacent to one another where they run the summer league, which, by the way, they reserve anyway in July, the Thomas and Mack Center and the Cox Pavilion. Assuming they could get all the teams into Las Vegas, which would alleviate traveling around the country. I mean, there would figure to be hotel space here for them. I mean, they could run games all day there and finish a little bit of the regular season and get into the playoffs. Whether there's fans or not, we'll see. All this stuff, too, remember, the governors are the ones who push the buttons on this stuff. The White House can say and try to get national policy out there, but it's sort of a directive. It really comes down to the governors. And with Governor Sisolak here in Nevada would have to sort of approve something. But this is all the social distancing and crowds and things like that. All these states aren't going to unravel this thing at the same time. New York, certainly, Andrew Cuomo's got different things to worry about than Kristi Noem in South Dakota. But, it'll be the governors are sort of the ones, and that's why you're not going to get all of the country reopening at the same time. And that's why this thing at one venue, I think, makes some sense. Now, there's some logistics involved, but, I mean, considering the alternative is not playing at all, it makes some sense. The NHL could perhaps do that, too, and also use Las Vegas if they just want a TV and make it a studio sort of a thing and get TV programming. Listen, the Golden Knights training facility has 2 full rinks, and they've got a thing in the middle, a little grandstand in the middle. They could play games there twice a day or throughout the day, 2 of them at a time if they want. So, I mean, I think that this is what ingenuity is, and it could work like that. MLB would even perhaps think about something like that using spring training. Arizona, you couldn't really play a day game into once you get to June because it's too hot there, but they got 10, 11 parks right in the Phoenix area, which you could use for this as well. So there's room for creativity, and I think that's something they ought to look at.
Well, Major League Baseball's taken a step in a different direction there. If you just look at the agreement they just made with the Players Association and the owners, they were going to follow steps, and none of those, except at the very end, would include empty stadiums. They were going to wait until the mass limits were out the window, and they were not interested really in empty stadiums. It is interesting to me. There's only one sport, I think, where not being at the venue you get a better sense of it, and that is golf. Golf, you can see a golf tournament better on TV than you can being at the course. And it makes the most sense to me to start golf. If you wanted to start golf early and it's an individual sport, so you don't need teamwork, and most of these guys are already hitting balls anyway because it's an isolation sport to begin with. If you choose it to be, that's the one sport I really believe could come back early, or the earliest, and play on an empty golf course and let the cameras tell the story, because I think they would do a really good job.
Absolutely. One of my favorite TV things growing up in the 60s, which you guys probably remember, was the old CBS Golf Classic with Jack Whitaker and Dr. Kerry Middlecoff, and they played that at La Quinta or La Costa or somewhere. Firestone, they played it one year, but it was all, they kind of taped it in the fall, but it was there was no gallery there. It was just the cameras, and you can do golf like that. And I think, golf certainly could. But I'd heard some of this about MLB too. And listen, all these leagues, if they want to do something here, they're going to have to get a little bit creative. If MLB is going to have a real problem with that, because you can tell. I mean, New York and some of these other places are not going to lift anything. They're going to be they're forced to trail here. And if you want to wait for all the venues to open up, who knows? But it could be well into the summer. MLB could risk missing the whole season, and maybe that's the direction they're going. But this cries out for somebody to be creative here, and it sounds to me like the NBA is at least thinking about it. So I give the NBA credit for at least thinking about it.
It could be wild, and you're right. They already have it all booked up for July anyway. That would be the end of summer league, but we could at least have some playoffs. I know the National Hockey League, since you mentioned that, they actually came out and today, or some of the athletes on teams that were bubble teams that were still fighting to get into the Stanley Cup playoffs, and the NHL was down to their final regular season 12 games. So for the most part, they had played the vast majority, 70 games. So you really had a sense. But their players were saying, if you are going to pick back up, then you either have to play regular season games so that we can figure out the bubble team situation, or expand the playoffs. So could you see an expansion of playoffs for them? And we could throw this out for the NBA, which was talking about having an in-season play-in anyway. How about the last 4 teams vying for 2 spots in as the 7 and the 8 seed? So you take 7, 8, 9, and 10, and they're playing for 7 and 8. You could do that in the East. You could do that in the West. You could do that in the divisions in the NHL.
Sure. I mean, they could do that, and the NHL has got that issue where there's teams with some have played as many as 3 games more than other teams. But let's just go back in history and see what has happened in these sorts of situations. If you recall in '82, when the NFL worked stoppage that year, they lost 7 full weeks. They expanded the playoffs that year. 8 teams in each conference got into the playoffs. It was a one-time shot, but they did it. Back to 72, Major League Baseball. Go look at the standings in 72. And so a lot of people will be surprised to say, wait a minute, the Tigers won the NL East at 86 and 70. The Red Sox were second at 85 and 70. Why didn't they make up that game? Well, the reason they didn't was the first week of the 72 season had a work stoppage. And when they resolved with the labor union and got back to playing, the edict was any games missed are missed. We start from here, and that's the rule. And the teams all agreed. And it could have worked out in the Red Sox favor, but the fact was they had 1 less game to play in that season than the Tigers, and it ended up costing them a chance for a playoff in the end. But, these are examples of what's been done in the past. Baseball did this, and that was the edict. Not all the teams played the same number of games in 72, and the NFL, though, did indeed expand the playoffs. So I think that's maybe what the NHL could do here, especially since there's a real and the log jam they've got in the NHL, all these teams coming in right at the end. To me it would seem like the NHL's already at 16. They could go they would be well advised, I think, to expand it just for fairness sake. So and there is some precedent for that in sports, sure.
A lot of things to still be decided. That is for certain. We are nowhere near any any form of certainty in any close. Doggone thing. I'm curious.
It's the only certainty is the uncertainty.
Yeah, I'm curious.
All we have to fear is the uncertainty, Bruce.
Yeah, but ain't that the truth, Brett?
I'm curious, Bruce. What is sort of in Las Vegas, where so many people are now without jobs because the main portion of the economy is tourism and hospitality. I haven't seen the figures on unemployment there. I know they've skyrocketed in Memphis because we've had so many more hospitality jobs over the last few years. But what is it like in Las Vegas right now for everyday life?
Well, in the outskirts, and I don't go down to the Strip too much or downtown, except for for the hockey games, really, or if somebody's out of town visiting. So I don't go down there much. But we did happen to take a drive for the heck of it down Las Vegas Boulevard the other day, and it's a ghost town, and it's so eerie. It reminds me of that Harry Belafonte movie with Inger Stevens in 1959, where he was the only guy left in New York. And there's just nobody there. And it's very odd. I mean, economic, we will see. I mean, a lot of people have been put out of work either temporarily or that the fear is that whenever this comes back, it's going to come back in phases. You're not just going to hire everybody back, at least as far as the hotels go. And this is obviously, I mean, if you're talking about social distancing, hey, the casinos, they're right. That's like sports games. I mean, people are jammed in there. So they've got some things to think about. There's also, I mean, it fuels other economies here too, and delivery guys who deliver food and deliver goods to the hotels. The convention business, which is going to really take a hit, I think, for a long time here. There's a whole industry here of people who just service the conventions, setting up these massive things that they have at these conventions and getting the displays ready and the convention area and all that. There's a lot of industry related to hotel and tourism, the airlines obviously too into Vegas here, and people that are employed there. So many that are tied into tourism, but actually beyond the hotels. This place has really got an issue down the road here, and I think that the concern people have is, it's just not all going to snap back in a second. Whenever the stuff gets lifted, it's going to
no presto change. It's
so
not going to be.
They're going to have to hang on for the ride here.
Yeah, I think, and I should point out, we'll be talking about that in about 15 minutes or so with Ted Evanoff, who's the business writer for the Commercial Appeal. What is the Gold Sheet doing these days? I know you're writing history and things of that nature. As an industry, what about a bunch of your guys? What are they doing?
We're all sort of on furlough right now, actually. Now, I'll be writing a couple things for VSiN on they have a Point Spread Weekly, which they are still publishing online. We're not publishing right now. There's no game, so nobody will buy it. And all the different things that I work for besides Gold Sheet are the same way. So we're just sort of in a holding pattern now. We at least know when they start playing again, we'll start working again. But for the meantime, we're just kind of hanging out. I'm putting stuff up on the website at Gold Sheet. I've got some best of stories up there, some of my favorite best, and I'll be putting up some of those old retrospectives soon. Kind of finishing up college hoops. I had the all-newcomer team I put up there, which I normally would have done late March anyway, so I did that. Precious, by the way, makes the Gold Sheet all-newcomer team.
I was going to say, he had to. Kid averaged a double-double.
He's there. He's on the team. So he's there. So I did that like I would normally do. But just trying to keep busy. I'm working on some of these book things and trying to get those things finished too. So and watching a lot of old. I got through almost the entire Andy Griffith 8 seasons, whatever it was, on Netflix. So, so I'm watching all those and pleasantly surprised. I didn't realize this when I was 5 or 6 years old when Barbara Eden and Sue Ann Langdon were guests, and I didn't look at them the same as I eventually with. And I was very, very pleasantly surprised to see them pop up in some early Andy Griffith shows.
I had no idea. I'm sure Barbara Eden was stunningly beautiful. There would be no doubt in my mind about that. Hey, last thing before we let you go. Of all the athletes with the clock ticking, who do you think is the most affected one because of lack of sports for the moment?
God, that's a good question.
It could be a Bruce Marshall piece.
It could be. There's a lot of sports that aren't playing right now. It would not be any football guy right now. Unless you want to count NFL free agency, and it went on like normal, so maybe it'll be Tom Brady because he got a big change of venue and all that, but that would apply to a lot of NFL guys too. It would be one of these guys who's not able to play right now, maybe with the clock running down in his career. You want to say LeBron, but I don't want to just throw LeBron at the top of any of these lists. It could be hockey guys too. But I really think that just in general, college hoops. A team, these guys that had one shot, and it was going to be one shot. Dayton will be remembered as the 1994 Montreal Expos of college hoops. This would have been their one shot this year, maybe to make a run, and it didn't happen for them. So for a team-wise, that might be one we remember as this thing really changed history for them.
Well, for me, it was Tiger Woods, who's trying to catch Jack Nicklaus and only gets 4 a year to do that. And already 2 have been canceled, or at least postponed. We don't know if they'll get those in. I thought Brett had the best line of all of them, though. Our genius, Brett Norsworthy, said, Bruce, the 3-year-olds who aren't going to run in the Derby if we don't have a Kentucky Derby.
Well, I think, by the way, I think that's they'll do that in September, I think, and I'm not sure if they have announced that or not. I had heard that Triple Crown just gets pushed back. So you're right, though. In May, no first Saturday in May, but I think they're going to do it later in the year.
All right, Bruce. How do we get more of you and stay healthy? Will you?
Yeah, check us out on minegoldsheet.com. Whatever I got, I'm going to put up there, and we'll get NFL draft stuff probably in a week and a half or so. And once we get through this free agency, and so you can get my stuff there. By the way, with handshaking out and fist bump a little dangerous if you don't know somebody. They think you're hitting them, and elbow bump the same thing. Let's bring back the salute. I think that's the easiest acknowledgement. And
the salute. I love it.
The salute. That'll be the new greeting.
The salute is going to come
We
back.
salute you, Bruce.
That is Bruce Marshall from the Gold Sheet. We take a quick timeout. We'll put a wrap on this first hour of Sports Time on Sports 56 with Wolo and Stats.
Take Sports 56 with you on your phone or tablet. Download our official Sports 56 app today.
When it comes to finding the right color paint for your project, inspiration can strike anywhere. Luckily, the Project Color app from the Home Depot puts the perfect color right at your fingertips. Simply upload any image and then discover the exact paint to match. You can even explore the most popular colors and see how they would look in your space. Download the Project Color app today. Then shop top-rated paint like Behr Marquee Interior Flat, now just $39.98. And start bringing your inspiration to life at the Home Depot. How doers get more done.
I'm Dr. George Flynn with Flynn Broadcasting Company. The coronavirus situation is causing a lot of cancellation of events, schools, concerts, sporting events, and all kind of social gatherings. It's called social distancing. But you do not have to be distant mentally from everyone in the community because Flynn Broadcasting is with you. We love you. We want to make sure that you are connected and protected from the coronavirus. So keep listening to this Flynn Broadcasting Station. We'll keep you informed, we'll keep you in touch, and we'll keep you connected to your friends. So as soon as this situation is over, we can go back to our normal living. I'm Dr. George Flynn with Flynn Broadcasting Company saying we love our community, we love you as individuals, and we are committed to your well-being.
At Indeed, we understand that when it comes to hiring, it's important to have a large talent pool to choose from. But sometimes too many good options can be overwhelming. That's why Indeed doesn't just give you access to a large pool of job seekers. We also offer screener tools that let you instantly narrow down your search. Hone in on hiring with Indeed. Experience Indeed for yourself today and get a free sponsored job upgrade on your first posting at Indeed.com/promo. Terms and conditions apply.
Now, back to Sports Time on Sports 56 with Wolo and Stats. This hour of Sports Time is brought to you by Lexus of Memphis. Here once again are Dave Woloshin and Brett Norsworthy.
Welcome back in. Cruising through our first hour. Coming up in a little bit, about 7-8 minutes. Ted Evanoff from the Commercial Appeal. There's a great moment yesterday. I'm sure you've seen it by now. It was on all the different websites on the internet, where Peyton Manning was a surprise classmate of a communications, of a communications class with what I guess was one of his favorite professors when he went to UT. But the guy gives him crap right off the bat. He goes, Mr. Thompson. He didn't want anybody to know it was Peyton. You're late for class. I should make you run sprints. And there's Peyton Manning getting real apologetic. Well, it's been a long time since I've done this sort of thing. And then there's girls going, Dr. Hughes, I think that's the professor's name. Why didn't you tell us he was coming? We would have worn makeup for this Zoom thing.
They didn't freak out in the videos to me. Some of them put their hands over their face, but like not a single person like stood up and like freaked out. Like I would have freaked out a little bit.
Peyton's just a good guy. I mean, really, he was just doing that
Sure
to
is.
bolster their spirits. I mean, that to me, that was really cool.
He's a really good guy.
It just goes back to the first time I ever really got any true sense of him was he apparently looked out his dorm, I think it was his freshman year, and saw a line of students waiting to get tickets for the football game. And he bought the whole line pizzas. He just called up whichever local pizzeria and said, hey, I want you to deliver like 15 pizzas to these people out here. And they did, and he paid for it. I mean, what a good guy.
It doesn't cost any more to be a good guy than it does to be a bad guy.
No. That was that to me, that was really a cool story from yesterday. And also, we talked a little bit about the Olympics a bit earlier, and this comes from Sebastian Coe. Athletes who qualified for the Olympics for this year, and not all have, right? Because you do still have some qualifying competitions that in America, at least, that were coming up. But there's a young lady who's an Ole Miss grad who has been a grad assistant coach for the U of M in riflery. And she's already made her spot. And I think she was a little bit worried. Channel 3 has done a couple of pieces on her. Just a delightful young lady. And I think, first she was very disappointed that the games were going to be canceled, but she knew that they had to be canceled. And then we find out today, if you've qualified, you're in. So she's not going to have to go through that qualifying again, which is that obviously a really great thing for her.
It will be, but again, the atrophy effect for the ones that made it, will they be as sharp next year as they would have been in 3 months?
No, that is a fair question. And a guy like we mentioned earlier, Ryan Lochte, he's a year older. So I don't think he had totally made the team yet. I mean, the odds are he will because he's still got the best times of anybody. But now he's going to have to compete in those qualifiers in a year from now. Will he still be as good 1 year older than he would be now when age is already, in terms of your normal swimmer, he's a little bit older than the normal age?
Here's one for if we don't have any more sports this year. We sure in the season of 21-22, Greg Popovich wants any more of the NBA grind.
How old is Greg? I think Greg's my age. I think he's 67, 68, somewhere in there, right? I don't think he's 70 yet. I think your Mike Krzyzewski question, he's 75. That would be, more to it. How old did you say Roy Williams is?
I didn't say age.
Okay. I think Roy. I don't think Roy wants to go out no matter what happens. I don't believe Roy Williams wants to go out on the year that he just had.
Roy Williams is 69.
69?
Will Mac Brown have that same fire he appears to have now?
Good question.
Time away can really do something to everyone.
No question. Yeah, he just got back, though. I can't imagine him wanting to give it up, especially since he came back and had so much success right off the bat. That's an hour in the books. When we come back, we are looking forward to talking to the business writer for the Commercial Appeal, Ted Evanoff. I'll let you know this portion of the show is brought to you by the Eflin Insurance Group. They've merged. I've told you this before. They're bigger and better than ever before. They merged with the Linder Group, Britt Linder's group, and now they have so much experience to help you out. We're talking 300 years of combined insurance experience. I'm talking if we count the Linder family and the Eflin family and go back and look, we're talking they've been around since 1955. When you have those kind of local chops and experience, you have access to a multitude of A-rated carriers, and they do. And they specialize in home, auto, umbrella, small to mid-sized commercial accounts. They can take care of you with personal insurance. They can take care of you with business insurance. Not many do that, but they do at the Eflin Insurance Group, and they still are all about service first as an agency. They sit you down, they evaluate, whether it's personal or business. They'll forecast out with business, they'll check on your family. Whatever you need to feel protected, they find for you. If you're interested in that kind of service and really becoming part of the family, you call 757-2315 or for Tiger fans, their own number, 386-GER. So that's 757-2315 or Those are the numbers to the Eflin Insurance Group. Back in a minute. Ted Evanoff is next on Sports Time on Sports 56 with Wolo and Stats.
DeSoto Auto Sales specializes in late model cars with low mileage. They have the highest standards in the car industry. All of their cars are test driven, checked out from head to toe. Unlimited inventory, every make and model. And if it's not on the lot, they'll find it for you. Walk in the door of DeSoto Auto Sales, 5704 Goodman Road. Within 45 minutes, you can test your car, get credit approval, and finish paperwork within an hour. No shortcuts at DeSoto Auto Sales. Kind, courteous employees, a down-home environment. DeSoto Auto Sales cares about your time. Lowest prices in a 350-mile radius. We're living in a world today where time does matter. Visit them online. Check out their referrals. DeSotoAutosales.com. Very proud to serve DeSoto County and other surrounding areas. DeSoto Auto Sales, 5704 Goodman Road. Call 662-890-7184. 662-890-7184. Come on down to DeSoto Auto Sales.
Hey folks, I'm Jarrett Carter. My family recently purchased East Memphis Ace Hardware at Quince and White Station, and we're excited to offer the best selection of Big Green Egg and Traeger grills. And then don't forget about our Benjamin Moore Paint Studio and the Garden Center for flowers. Save 60% with our new Duracell key fob replacement program. We have a master locksmith service as well as glass cutting and screen repair. The East Memphis Ace Hardware, located at Quince and White Station behind Three Little Pigs.
Farmers Insurance knows that there's a not-so-subtle difference between the sound of a car hitting your rear bumper and the sound of a clown car hitting your rear bumper.
Whoa, 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 whoa! Sorry about that.
We call that a three-ring fender bender, and we covered it. Talk to a farmer's agent.
They know a thing or two because they've seen a thing or two.
Call Chad Gatlin at 901-235-1176 or get a fast quote at memphisfarmers.com.
We are farmers. Bum, 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 bum.
Underwritten by Farmers Truck Fire Insurance Exchanges and Affiliates. Products not available in every state.
It's not too early to start planning for spring at Family Leisure. New pools are starting at $19.99, spas starting at $21.99, and swim spas now only $99.99. 5-piece patio furniture starts at only $799. Pool chemicals, toys, accessories, and more up to 20% off. Mention this ad, you'll get free delivery and 1 month of chemicals with your spa purchase. Start your spring planning now at Family Leisure, Whitten Road and I-40, where family and fun come together.
We are Sports 56 WHBQ Memphis, WIVG-FM Tunica Memphis, and WPG-FLP Memphis. Flynn Broadcasting Stations. Now, more of Sports Time on Sports 56 with Wolo and Stats. This hour of Sports Time is brought to you by Homer Skelton Hyundai. Here once again are Dave Woloshin and Brad Norsworthy.
Welcome back in. Wolo and Stats with you. I just received news, a friend of mine growing up. I have no idea if it was the coronavirus or not, but my neighbor, one of my best friends, passed away this past night, and I just heard from a member of their family. So bear with me as I try to keep my wits about me. These are really incredibly tough times, no doubt about it. I'll let you know this hour of the show presented by Genesis of Olive Branch. Genesis of Olive Branch is, I think, the standard when it comes to service, when it comes to taking care of you. And, of course, those vehicles, those Genesis cars are, as far as I'm concerned, they are the standard when it comes to luxury cars with all the technology in them, the safety that is in them, the handling and the speed that is in those cars like my G90. Well, they're special. They are truly, truly special. And they're so good, you get a 10-year, 100,000-mile limited powertrain warranty on every car on the lot. Go see my friend Chris True. Just get on Lamar into Mississippi, first exit's Craft Road. Turn left, you'll be there. You'll understand why. The service and the product, so good at Genesis of Olive Branch. This is an honor to talk with Ted Evanoff. I've been reading him for years. Ted is the business writer for the Commercial Appeal. I just read your story today. There's a lot of different things to speak with Ted, with you about. But let's start basically with your impressions of what the mayor has done and what Donald Trump has done so far with the stimulus package, where you think where we are right now economically. Good afternoon.
Well, I think economically right now, Drew, we're looking at a question mark. We haven't seen the bottom of this yet. And I think with the shelter-in-place order on Tuesday from Mayor Jim Strickland, it'll take about a week or so before we know what the full impact of that is. Just before that order took place, the Greater Memphis Chamber did a survey, and they found that about 72% of the companies they contacted were still open, and 34% of those companies had laid off at least one person. We're probably going to see a much, much higher layoff rate once this next survey comes through. There's a stimulus bill. I'm sure most people are aware of this. It's $2.1 trillion. It's massive. It's 10% of U.S. GDP is going out to the country here under this legislation from Washington. It's not really a stimulus. It's really meant to shore up a leaky boat, and that stimulus has some benefits for people who are going to be laid off. It'll provide another $600 a week for 4 months. I believe it's on top of the current amount of money you're getting for unemployment now. So in Tennessee, if you're laid off and you're getting $275 a week, my understanding is this would push that up to $875 a week. And of course, the intention is to keep people spending and keep the economy going. There's also in that measure a lot of money for small businesses to maintain their payrolls and to keep kind of, even if their doors are closed, to keep paying their people. There's something on the order of about $350 billion in small business loans for that purpose. There's also another part of the stimulus is loans to larger businesses of $450 billion in there. The big question is how fast is all this going to roll out? I think right now we're looking at kind of a steep drop-off in employment. Before this stimulus measure was put together, the president of the St. Louis Federal Reserve Bank estimated we might see a 30% unemployment rate in the country. I think that's wildly inaccurate now because the stimulus has come through. But we're probably going to see in Memphis another 40 or 50,000 people laid off here, and that would push the unemployment rate over 10%. We're going to be back to the level where we were, in 2009, 2010, when everything tanked because of that financial crisis. When is all this going to end? The economists say by October, November, business should be returning to normal, and by the first quarter of 2021, we should be looking at more of a normalcy. Although I don't think we're ever going to go back. Let me rephrase that. Although I don't think we're going to immediately go back to where we were in February before all this hit. But we're probably going to look at a lot more layoffs here over the summer in the hospitality sector, the hotels, the restaurants, the museums. Certainly, the retailers are closed down, and the warehouses that supply those two industries are also being hit. What's really strong in Memphis are logistics, not just FedEx, but the truck lines and the distribution centers, as well as manufacturing. And this is a huge medical hub. There are 80,000 healthcare workers in Memphis, 70,000 logistics workers, 45,000 manufacturing workers, and 86,000 government employees. And so you're looking there at about 250,000 people who are probably going to, the majority of them are probably going to come through this in decent shape. All that said, it's kind of a tale of two cities. Hospitality, retail, some of the warehouses linked to those, professional services. If you're an accountant doing business with hotels, that you might be drawing unemployment checks here. And we'll probably see the bottom of this toward July and August.
Let me clarify again what you said about the stimulus package and unemployment, because I thought it was 3.3 million around the country now that have filed for unemployment in the past week. And you said you could get anywhere from 275 to 875 a week through this new stimulus package as unemployment. It seems like those numbers are pretty high.
Yeah, they are. It's I wouldn't say it quite the way you did, up to 875. I mean, look, we've got Memphis is at the corner of three states. Each state has its own policy, and I use Tennessee as an example where, here it's not unusual to get about 275 a week in Tennessee if you've been laid off. I don't know what the Mississippi number is or what the Arkansas number is, but my understanding is the stimulus bill, whatever you're getting in unemployment from the state, the stimulus is going to add another $600 a week for up to 4 months.
Wow.
Ted, I'm with you.
There's about $250 billion in the stimulus bill to extend unemployment insurance to the
Ted,
states.
I'm with you. We shouldn't call it a stimulus bill. This is no more. It was a relief bill. It was to save people that after the Titanic had hit the iceberg. That's what this was. But it was $2 trillion last year. The entire budget for the entire U.S. government, for everything we do, was $4 trillion. In a blink of an eye, this was $2 trillion, and it was not a stimulus. Ted, I want to ask you, and I love your coverage and everything y'all been trying to do on the fly. You're like everybody in the world, and you've got your own lives as well to have concerns about. But I want to take it to sports, and at some point, will y'all get to this angle of it? With all the dates that FedEx Forum is now missing between the Grizzlies, concerts, and things like that, where do those bond payments stand that the Grizzlies would have to make? Where are the Grizzlies' bills that they would have to pay out, like to the University of Memphis that was a tenant this year? And also for AutoZone Park, where would we stand if the Redbirds and Memphis 901 had a year of not a single soul coming through those gates?
That I don't know the answer to that question. I think it's an important question. I don't know the answer. I'm trying to recall when the NBA shut down, the Grizzlies and the FedEx Forum people thought there was enough wherewithal to not have to rely on the city to pay for the bond payment, to make the bond payments. I don't know how long they can run with and before they have to turn to the city. My sense is you could probably negotiate with the bondholders some kind of longer period, sort of a grace period before any sort of default stipulations come into play. But having said all that, I really don't know the answer to the question.
Well, the other wrinkle to that would be, I'm pretty sure with FedEx Forum, I also think it's set up this way with AutoZone Park, but there is a entertainment district that provides money to pay off some of the taxes too. Where there's in lieu of taxes, there are numbers that have to be put in place, and so. There are so many different wrinkles. If there's no games whatsoever, I'm certain you're right. They're going to have to renegotiate with the bondholders in order to make this work. How long do you think these businesses will remain closed? I know you're not a doctor, and it's going to take some of that. But how long do you think we can sustain the period we're in right now?
That's a great question, and I think that what are we doing? We've organized a recession to create a situation so people don't die from the virus. We're trying to. I mean, I wrote a story the other day and quoted David Waddell, a financial expert in town, saying, what are we doing? We have it's going to take a recession to kill the virus, and that's what we're doing now. Let me throw a number out there. There are 4,000 hospital beds in Memphis, give or take. There are 4,000 beds. What you don't want to do is be in a situation where you have 4,000 really sick people from the Mid-South knocking on the door of the hospitals and saying, "Let me in." The hospital people would say it's not our total beds, it's our intensive care unit beds. They're the ones that are critical. I don't know what that number is, so I'm just going to stick with 4,000. I think what we would have to see in order to have 4,000 patients, is something on the order of maybe 15,000, 20,000 cases of coronavirus in the metro area. That's quite a bit. Right now, the metro area is Memphis, Shelby County, and the 8 counties around Shelby County. And in the metro area, there are 329 cases in total detected. By this afternoon, as of this afternoon. So to go from 329 to 14,000, that's quite a hike. Dr. Jane, a physician in Memphis who advised Mayor Strickland on this, he says, we might be able to really knock off the crest, so we don't swamp the hospitals. That's the last thing we want to do is overwhelm the hospitals, and following the shelter in place and these other measures, we might be able to knock that crest back so we don't really see a huge number. I wrote a piece the other day quoting Dr. James saying we really have to reevaluate every week, maybe every 10 days to see, can we reduce shelter in place in steps? And he said, we don't know right now. Maybe we could hit the date that President Trump is talking about as starting the march toward normalcy on April 12th. Right now, we don't know. If we can get back to some semblance of normalcy, later in April or mid-April, late April, I think we're going to go back. I don't think we're going to have this shelter-in-place situation going on for a great deal of time longer. Having said all that, the real question is, it's like China. They thought they got it under control, and now it's leaking back in from travelers who are coming into China from other parts of the world. Their people are coming back home, and they're bringing the virus with them. And so in Memphis, we may see a point where in April, it looks good, and then in June or July, the cases start going up again. What we want to see is a situation where there are fewer cases being detected each week. So if there are 329 now, we want 300 next week and 275 the week after that. I don't know when we're going to reach that point. The best case scenario is, as President Trump says, in April, middle of April, we're going to start going back to normal. That seems really optimistic to me. I'm looking at the cases in Mississippi, and DeSoto County is surging, Tahoma County and the Mississippi Delta, Tippah County and Mississippi Hill Country. So there still may be places where these cases sort of leak into Metro Memphis in the same way that China is now seeing more cases leak in. I realize, having said all that, I probably have convoluted the whole answer, but I don't think anyone knows right now.
Two weeks, it seems to me, Ted, would be very, very tough when Easter comes around. I can't thank you enough for being on with us today. We might have to do this again in a couple of weeks when we have a little bit of a clearer picture. But we thank you so much for your time, and we hope that you stay healthy.
Oh, sure. It was a pleasure. Thank you.
That is Ted Evanoff, business writer for the Commercial Appeal. Let us take a quick time out. Oh, we can stay here for a minute. Yeah.
Yeah, and a lot to digest there from Ted. We do appreciate him for his time. I want to see somebody really do the. I know they're busy and everybody is kind of trying to do the best they can, but I want to see some of the business of sports stories, because there's going to be a real impact already with the dates missed. And summertime, it's pretty slim there. But if we went the entire year, just how that would affect people. AutoZone Park not excluded from that either, missing out on the great crowds from 901 and the tranche of people over the long haul of the year for the Redbirds. The Redbirds get criticized about their night in, night out attendance, but still over 70 dates, even on the low side, you're talking 200,000 people low side that still come through the doors, and if they're spending anything, that helps on the retiring the pavement and staying square.
Yeah. I am, I go back to the things that he said toward the end here. I have no idea how long this will be. I just, I've heard Bob Corker, or read Bob Corker's comments about how we need to get the economy back, and if that means we have to sacrifice some of the older people.
Serious years ago.
I mean, I'm not buying that, and I can't.
I'm probably not Bob Corker's favorite guy from my last encounter with him.
Well, my point is this. You have to abide by what the government says to you, but I'm hoping our leaders are listening to what our medical people are telling them. And as far as I can see, based on every graph, every thing that I have read, I don't think this country is ready to come out of shelter-in-place, quarantine, back to business as usual by April 12th. Is that when Easter is? 2 weeks, I guess, from what is it, 2 or 3 weeks from this Sunday? I can't imagine that we will be ready for that. And
but at some point, we're going to have to.
I would only hope we're on the conservative side. Yeah, I understand that. But when they tell me it's about to spike here in the next week or two, when the doctors are saying DeSoto County is now the hottest spot in the state of Mississippi, right down the road from us, I don't think this personally is the time that we would do that.
No, it doesn't seem like it'd be very likely. And as I said yesterday, and then this word was used a lot last night and today after I first invoked it yesterday, I think that was aspirational. At some point, we got to set some goals, and I don't know exactly how we do it. That's for the lot bigger pay grade than mine, and they're trying to decide everywhere. Obviously, it's not in New York. It's not in California. It's not in New Orleans. It's now spiking terribly in Atlanta, where there's a lot of density. And then just the practicality of, even when it opens, do you really want to be crammed in to Grand Central Station at 8:30 in the morning, at Penn Station, or at D.C. Metro stop? Do you really want to be jammed into Cameron Indoor Arena?
Not me. I was also absolutely amazed at the number that with the stimulus that you will get. If you're unemployed in the state of Tennessee, you get $275 a week, is what he said. Plus, through the stimulus package, they will give you an additional $600. We're talking $875 a week for 16 weeks. I did the math on that. That's $14,000. And if that money comes out there, I think as a society, we could spend a lot of money and not have to worry about that. Bills will be paid, rents will be made, food will be purchased. At those kinds of numbers, that would be giving a pretty good amount of the population a raise.
Would that be on top of the $1,200 that most people will get from the federal government?
I don't know. I got the feeling
is that included?
I think that's what that would be instead of $1,200. I think. I'm not 100% certain. But he did
But
say.
you're going to prioritize things. You're going to prioritize mortgage, insurance,
Right.
car. I mean, it's not going to be, let's go buy, football tickets.
No, but you're gonna make good on the bills that you have that you wouldn't be able to. So everything keeps going. So your landlord gets his money. So the car company gets their money. All the bills that you prioritize at least get paid. And I think in some instances this would actually be over and above the budget that some people would have.
Well, I hope people will prioritize and be smart and thrifty.
I do too. Let us take a break. When we come back, Peter Edmiston will be with us. This portion of the show brought to you by Ken Garland. Ken Garland Custom Home Builders. Ken Garland's got a brand new development in East Memphis. It's called Alaylon, a gated community by Boyle on Messick Road, just east of Kirby, all the way to McVeigh. These are 4-bedroom homes that are truly palaces. They start at $875,000. That's if you're looking for land to go with your new home. If you've got your own lot, you're not sure what to do with, here's where Ken Garland comes in again. Or if you like your old home, you love your lot and location, you'd like the new modern amenities because your house is old. Hello, get a renovation. Renovation with the innovation if you get it with Ken, because he now puts all those modern amenities into your old home. It is beautiful. Go see for yourself. Go to kengarland.com, and if you like it, then give him a call. 751-1632, Ken Garland Custom Home Builders. Back in a minute. This is Sports Time on Sports 56 with Wolo and Stats.
Greg Gaston and Eli Savoy get you through the midday with Sports 56 Middays. Delivered by FedEx. Weekdays from 10 till 1 on Sports 56, 96.1 and 87.7.
The landscape is so beautiful at Town Village Audubon Park. Nestled in the heart of East Memphis, located corner of Park and Cherry, is a beautiful residential neighborhood. Looking for a great place to retire, but you still have a very active lifestyle? Then visit Town Village. Only requirements that you're 55 plus. Prices per month starting at $24.50. The Gourmet Chef welcomes you to visit our restaurant and bistro. Package includes 3 complimentary meals per day, maid service, free local transportation, monthly coffee club, themed dinner parties, lots of fun. Visit us and call Daniel or Bo at Town Village Audubon Park at 901-374-7342. There's no place like home. Town Village Audubon Park.
I'm Dr. George Flynn with Flynn Broadcasting Company. The coronavirus situation is causing a lot of cancellation of events, schools, concerts, sporting events, and all kind of social gatherings. It's called social distancing, but you do not have to be distant mentally from everyone in the community because Flynn Broadcasting is with you. We love you. We want to make sure that you are connected and protected from the coronavirus. So keep listening to this Flynn Broadcasting station. We'll keep you informed, we'll keep you in touch, and we'll keep you connected to your friends. So as soon as this situation is over, we can go back to our normal living. I'm Dr. George Flynn with Flynn Broadcasting Company saying we love our community, we love you as individuals, and we are committed to your well-being.
Hey everybody, this is Coach Penny Hardaway. There's a comfort in being home, and to me, comfort food and family makes Memphis the place to be, along with having the best basketball fans in America. I like pulling into Corky's and getting one of their family party packs. How can you go wrong with pork, beans, slaw, sauce, and buns for only $5.99 a person? It is so easy. I can call ahead, order online, or just pop in. Tailgating can't get any easier. Tell them Penny sent you.
Encore flavor, Corky's barbecue.
Hi, it's Flo. And you know what word I don't get? Shampoo. The first half of the word is sham, and the second part you definitely don't want to see in the shower. That's why I made up a neat word, Flotection. The feeling of security you get when your new house is protected by home insurance through me and Progressive. I mean, seriously, shampoo? What part of that makes you want to rub it all over your hair?
Save an average of 17% on car insurance when you bundle home and auto through Progressive. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company affiliates and other insurers. Discount not available in all states or situations.
Now, more of Sports Time on Sports 56 with Wolo and Stats. This hour of Sports Time is brought to you by Homer Skelton Hyundai. Here once again are Dave Woloshin and Brad Norsworthy.
We are joined now by our friend Peter Edmondson from Sports 56 Mornings with C.J. Hurt. You hear him every morning from 7 to 10 a.m., and you read him at The Athletic, and you can follow him on Twitter at Peter Edmondson with a lot of news going on around the Grizzlies and around the NBA and around our very busy country and the world. We bring Peter in now to visit with him about all subject matter. Peter, first of all, how are you and your family?
Everybody's good. Everybody's good, Brett. How are you?
We're doing well and trying to proceed with this global pandemic. And we were texting, and I threw this out yesterday. This has to be the most shared disaster in the annals of human recorded history, if we maybe since Noah got on the ark.
Yeah, I put. It was funny when you texted me that the other day. I was intrigued by the question. I put it to some friends of mine who are more academically inclined than I am, some teachers and professors and stuff. And it was interesting that they sort of kind of agreed, depending on how you want to frame the question. But the idea of what you mean by shared and simultaneous is the big thing, because it is shared. It's very quick. It's amazing how fast this thing has spread and how we all kind of, we all know about it. We all have the same experience. There are lots more people, I think, that were affected, in terms of there's all sorts of the Black Death and, the bubonic plagues and world wars and, all sorts of stuff like that affected tons of people. But did they do it simultaneously and did they do it with everyone knowing about it? That was the other thing. I don't think so.
The awareness.
So I think it's a pretty crazy thing. I don't know that there's much of a comparison.
And there are some safer harbors, but there's no really exempt harbor. We're now at 191 out of 195 countries. I mean, as I texted you, and I was trying to be a little bit catty with you. I mean, when the Isle of Man gets touched, I mean, there's almost no safe harbor. I had to look up and find out exactly where the Isle of Man, where it's located, and I found out between Ireland and Great Britain.
Well, there's a player from Memphis 901 FC from the Isle of Man. So
you are kidding me?
Connection as well. Nope.
Wow.
How about
Small
that?
world, isn't it? And it's gotten really smaller through this pandemic. Peter, to sports, I just see no way anytime soon, and I will even say ever, and ever's a really long time, and I don't like using never and ever. I just don't know how quickly presto, changeo, click our heels together and return us back to Kansas we go. I think it's going to be very slow and cumbersome to wake up the economy, to wake up people that have been conditioned now to not even get near family members, to friends. I mean, the last hug, embrace of a friend, when was it? I can tell you 2 weeks ago tonight was the last hand I've shaken, and I guarantee you it won't be another one in 2 weeks.
Yeah, it's that's the thing we just, we can't know. And it's a hard thing because, if you can spin this thing out in lots of different ways, in mentally, it can be kind of crazy to think about some of the outcomes of this thing. The truth is we don't know. We just don't. You can't know. It's such an unusual, unprecedented thing that is happening, and then that thing has brought about so many other secondary things that are also in their own way unprecedented, like the massive unemployment numbers and the economic impacts and all of that stuff, and it makes things very difficult to kind of predict. And I would say that I saw Kirk Herbstreit today talking about how he just couldn't even see college football season. He said, I don't see it. I don't see NFL. I don't see college football. I don't see it. And he's obviously pretty vested interest in this whole thing. But it's hard. It's hard to envision. I mean, I know, for example, the situation in China has been, pretty well, I'm not going to say under control, to the extent that it's under control anywhere. They were so far in front of everything. They dealt with all the stuff that we're dealing with, the stuff that they were going through 2 months ago. They've got it in a little more of a controlled situation, but they're having trouble, fully keeping it under control. And they have a lot more authoritarian measures to go through than we use typically in this country. The Chinese Basketball Association was trying to come back later on, this month, go into April a little bit. They had kind of their idea of what they wanted to do, and it would have been about a 4-month kind of departure, sort of thing. They have a 4-month period, and they're having trouble doing it, even though it's far more quote unquote under control. They're far more they're much stricter measures with regard to measuring public health. Some of it, way out of people's controls. They still can't do it. They still can't restart because they can't be sure that you're not going to restart an entire spread situation when you bring a whole bunch of people together. So, how do you know? How do you know? How do you know that we're cool? How do you know that everything's ready to rock? We don't have widespread testing at all. We have very little testing per capita in this country. So, you don't know that you can spread it. And there's stories, very scary stories that are going on nationwide. I was reading about folks, in their 30s and 40s, seemingly healthy people who got it and died. And we like to, people like to push the idea that this is a disease that disproportionately affects the elderly, and that is true. But disproportionately is the key word here. It still greatly affects middle-aged folks and folks, even younger folks in their late 20s and into their 30s. It's a deeply unpleasant at best situation and fatal at worst. So I don't know, man. I don't know what to tell you. This is an unprecedented situation, and it's hard for me to envision when you just say, "Hey, yep, we're good to go." And they might be able to bring some sports back on a small trial basis. You might be able to bring. I know that the Big Three is doing their Big Brother / Big Three thing, where they combine all the players that have been tested and cleared in a house, quarantined, including the referees, and they all sort of live together and then play, and they televise that. I guess you could get to that point when you could, over the course of weeks, clear a certain number of players and put them in a situation where they could play each other. But in terms of having fans back and having it be like it was, I think we're a long way from that.
I think we are a long way. And Peter, how long would it take? All right, we have the starters gone, and we fire it off, and we're back to sports. How long would it take for the NBA? Because I've mentioned the atrophy effect a couple times today for around sports. How long would it take for the NBA to go through some quasi camp and then maybe even an exhibition game or two, and even try resumption of the season at the playoffs?
I mean, it would be tough. I would say you'd have to. I mean, guys are each team, Grizzlies included, are monitoring their guys, and they all have, to the extent that the CBA allows it, they all have wearable technology that each of the players kind of has. So you'll have your Fitbits and your wearable wristbands and apps on your phone and stuff. And so the strength and conditioning coaches around the league, performance staff, they understand and they kind of have a feel for what some of these players are doing. So they can keep them, going in decent shape, but decent shape ain't going to get it done. When you're playing basketball and they're prohibited from, working out together. Basketball is a team sport. Most sports are team sports. And when you're prohibited from working together in a team situation, because of the rules of this pandemic and social distancing and all that, you can't. You cannot possibly be at your best or anywhere close to it. If they can come together, it would take a mini training camp of some kind. I'd say at the very least 10 days to kind of just get you reacclimated and to get you to the point where you could sort of halfway do it. But in terms of the quality, you're not gonna get there. And I've been thinking about how would you even restart the season? Like it doesn't even, I don't know. Restarting the season seems pointless at this point. Like I mean, I guess you have to have like a champion or something. But there's just so much. I mean, I suppose contractually there are rules about having a certain product that you've promised. So you'd have to deliver some playoff product. You'd have to deliver a champion. There are clauses in contracts that a lot of teams are dealing with, particularly on the college side of, what happens if you had a tournament clause in your contract or you had a certain number of wins clause. Well, that becomes invalid. How do you do free agency? Free agency in the NBA, for example, is supposed to open up, July 1, but is the season going to be back? Did you push it back? There's so many just utterly unprecedented things about this that we just don't know. So it feels strange to me to say, yeah, we're going to just pick that season right back up. And no, I guess you could do a truncated version, but even that would feel weird. And would it feel like a champion if you won? You jumped right to the playoffs and you played some, best 2 out of 3. And would you feel like a champ? I mean, you'd win something, I guess, but it wouldn't feel the same.
It would not feel the same. And Peter, we have said, I think by the nature of it being an outdoor sport, very individual, your points about the team sport aspect are so real. I mean, team sports, look at one bust, we all bust. And I think football, as much as any of that, basketball may be second, one bust, we all bust. But I think golf will be the one that is the first one that stumbles back out and let's see how we can do this. And that may even be fanless with just actually the participants, golfing that ball around.
Yeah, I mean, it seems to me like, logistically, you could put on a golf tournament without fans. Now, I don't know what that looks like economically. Daryl Smith and those guys would be able to tell you that grim reality of what that would be. But you could, in theory, at least, fulfill your television side of it. You could fulfill some sort of a product. Golf, I think, unlike most sports, golf doesn't necessarily require the fans to be electric to really get it going. You can watch somebody just play a round of golf and it's better with fans. It's a bigger spectacle and all that, but golf is okay without fans. There are some sports to me that just fans are crucial or vital to the whole thing. And I like basketball. I just can't imagine. Yeah. Hockey, I can't imagine, without fans. I can't, it's hard to envision what you would do. I mean, like I'm seeing them. This is the silliest thing I've ever seen. I'm seeing them try to wrestle in empty arenas. Wrestling's not even a sport. And I say this as somebody who loves wrestling. Wrestling is a play. It's an entertainment product. You couldn't put on a play for nobody. The whole point of a play is to entertain the audience that's there. It's live, theatrics. It's a television, like putting on.
Hold on, Peter. You're telling me wrestling's not real?
The pandemic is causing all of us to.
I've been through a lot, Peter. I don't know if I can take this today.
I know. I got to just shoot everyone straight at this point. Yes, you're.
Okay.
Yes, there's a lot of that may not have been fully real. So, but the point is, like, you wouldn't see somebody put on a Phantom of the Opera and shoot a camera at a stage on Broadway and put on the play as if nothing. That would just be a weird thing. You wouldn't do that.
The chandelier scene at the beginning doesn't have any impact if there's no crowd
really,
there.
Yeah, it doesn't really work that well. So, yeah, I think of all the sports, like, auto racing and, like, golf could probably be okay without fans. Like, you could probably make that work. But most of the others, I mean, I think you got to have those fans, man. I think you got to have some fans there.
I do too. Peter, you have a great weekend. We look forward to listening to you next week, and we hope the best for all of your family and everybody out there listening. Just we gotta stay strong during this. This is
I know it, man. I know
some time to be alive.
I know it. I appreciate the job that you guys are doing, and I appreciate the job everybody's trying to do with this thing where everyone's doing their part. I hope that everyone's taking this very, seriously and, understanding what the point of why we're going through all of this. And it's a collective sacrifice that we're all making to try to limit the amount of death and serious illness. Like, it's a big time sacrifice. There's a lot of people who are sacrificing money and hours and time and everything else. And so I hope we all as a nation are proud of ourselves, honestly. Like, as much as this is a huge ordeal and difficulty for so many folks, there are tremendous stories of people coming together and doing everything they can and working very hard for their fellow man. And I think that we can't lose sight of the humanity of this thing, or else it becomes overwhelming.
Amen, Peter. Thank you. I really appreciate it.
Take care. Thanks, Brett.
You got it. Peter Edmondson joining us every Friday, mostly to talk NBA, but with the news of the world around us, we talk that as well with him. Look, like everywhere, you can't dine in, but Jason's Deli, keep them in mind this weekend for pickup orders, to-go orders, delivery, all that great food, wholesome food forever. It's a family thing at Jason's Deli. All the locations, you contact any of them, or you go online at jasonsdeli.com, and they will take care of you. They're all about choice at Jason's Deli, regardless if you seek a gluten-free menu, vegetarian sandwiches, healthy kids meals, or if you'd like one of those big sandwiches delivered to you, you'll be delighted at Jason's Deli. All the great organic food to choose from, all the salads, all the meat spreads, cheese spreads, and we sure appreciate our friends at Jason's Deli. I texted my friend Chris, and I told him how much I miss seeing him, miss my friends there, and we'll all reconnect. But you can connect with them through pickup and delivery at any of the locations. Going online at jasonsdeli.com. Again, the catering or the delivery or to pick up to go, you will be accommodated at Jason's Deli at Ridgeway Road, Poplar and Highland, Olive Branch, and Cordova. When we come back, we wrap up hour number 2. Andy Schiffman will lead us off at 5 o'clock, starting hour number 3, and you'll hear Ted Evanoff from the Commercial Appeal again as we replay him at 5:30. He was very insightful. You're listening to Sports Time on Sports 56 with Wolo and Stats.
Broadcasting from the Family Leisure Studio, we are Sports 56, 96.1 and 87.7.
It's happening. Wherever cupcakes are being frosted, songs are being recorded, and engines are being tuned, ADP is designing a better way to work. With industry-leading HR, talent, time, benefits, and payroll, more companies rely on ADP than any other HR partner, from small business to global enterprise. See how ADP can help you and your people achieve what you're working for at design.adp.com. ADP, always designing for people.
Looking for a great place to deposit your money? Try First Bank. Competitive CD rates, a money market that moves with Wall Street prime and interest-bearing checking account options. Not to mention their friendly bankers who make decisions locally. To find out more, stop by one of First Bank's 3 local branches. 6482 Poplar Avenue, just east of International Paper. 8398 Highway 64 across from Wolf Chase. And 6280 Highway 64 in Oakland. Or visit firstbankonline.com. Member FDIC.
Hey, sports fans, you already know about the great steaks at the Butcher Shop Steakhouse, a Memphis tradition since 1981. They specialize in hand-cut aged beef right over that hickory charcoal. But did you know the Butcher Shop also has great seafood items, from fresh Atlantic salmon with dill sauce, pan-seared red snapper with sautéed shrimp and Cajun cream sauce, Canadian cold water lobster tails, crab stuffed shrimp, homemade lump crab cakes, and a whole lot more. Oh, and don't forget the Fresh Burger Fridays for only $8.95. Come in, enjoy a fantastic dinner at the Butcher Shop. You call the Butcher Shop at 901-757-4244, or you can visit the website at butchershop.com.
From now until March 29th, the Butcher Shop is offering curbside to-go orders and giving 10% off for all guests who use this service. The Butcher Shop, 107 South Germantown Parkway in Cordova, 901-757-4244.
Now, more of Sports Time on Sports 56 with Wolo and Stats. This hour of Sports Time is brought to you by Homer Skelton Hyundai. Here once again are Dave Woloshin and Brad Norsworthy.
Every time I come around your city, bang, bang.
So we welcome you back in, Wolo, with you in the Flynn Broadcasting Center. Stats, socially isolated, doing things here the right way. We are at Flynn Broadcasting. He is at home. By the way, we said earlier Doris Burke had received a positive diagnosis for COVID-19. What I didn't say, and I should have added this, is it's now coming out more clearly, she is symptom-free more than 2 weeks after her initial concerns. She said this on a podcast with Woj from ESPN. She said she started to believe, even though, quoting, my symptoms did not seem to line up with the typical symptoms, I believe, given the nature of my profession, the number of people I encountered, that I did, in fact, have exposure to the virus. She said she first felt her symptoms on March 11th, the same day NBA was shut down after Utah Jazz center Rudy Gobert and then Donovan Mitchell were found to have the disease. So she's now
all
in
the
the
Jazz
clear.
are now free,
Right?
All now in the clear. And
Well,
so that's some good news, and we got to take our blessings where we can get them, Dave. The stories of this, I mean, it is the story of Dave. You know, I'm not much for hot take, trying to get click stuff. You know I'm not. But this is the story of our lifetime, sports and otherwise, sports and social, sports and your friends, sports and what you are dealing with now, Dave. It is so very sad to hear the stories of people that have lost someone in this last few weeks and going forward. You can hardly even have the proper, respectful service or the traditional service that we were used to. We had a texter at 67129 that mentioned what this is going to do to churches and synagogues and to charities, because we know what was getting ready to start, Dave, in about 3 Mondays. If you wanted to, and all of them, every single one of them, great causes, you could play in a very great cause 4-person scramble every Monday from the middle of April until the 1st of November. Now, where are they going to go for their money? I know springtime is a big time, and I usually participate and try to help in this with the Special Olympics. April and May is usually a big Special Olympic month for that great cause. It's going to be missed. All the runs, all the walks, all the golf tournaments, all of that, the repeater impact, the trickle down, it won't be a trickle down. It's going to be a torrent of the impact this is going to have, not just who's going to sit in a darn skybox at a football game next year. It's more than that.
Oh, I agree. Where will that money that would have been raised by those scrambles, where will that come from? You mentioned there's just this wonderful league that for I don't know how many years now, 20, 25 years, David Ross has had for Special Olympic bowlers at the Cordova Lanes that he has every year. It's like twice a year. I've been involved in a bunch of their award ceremonies, and basketball coaches from John Calipari to Josh Pastner to Tubby Smith all came and were participants to hand out awards where they can't have those now because you can't have gatherings, and I don't know. You're right. The impact is on so many different people, and frankly, even when it's time to get back to normalcy, will people who don't have the money they used to have because the market went away for a while or because they were out of work for a while, what will happen to that money that you might have spent that now you have to keep in your pocket a little bit longer?
And this is a big time of year for a lot of college football season ticket holders. A lot of people have that bill sitting in their bill box right now, the bill for either a down payment on tickets or the re-upping on the priority list through foundations or wherever you stand, and to kind of to jump up at the front of the line. Look, we know in college sports, the more you give, the better your seats are. That's just a fact that we've all known and lived under. It may not be going forward. It may just be to have somebody get to the ballpark and to the stadium and to the arena going forward. It really could be, and I sure didn't want it. I'd love to be able to wave a wand and we have our old lives back. We may never get that. We may never have that. But we could look up and see this as the big reckoning that finally happened in sport. I mentioned the other day, we could think in 2 or 3 years of, we used to pay a basketball player or a football coach or an announcer or a broadcaster that? Are you kidding me? What were we thinking? That there's no way that could ever last, and maybe now it hadn't.
To the texter who sent me condolences about my friend, in full disclosure, I did not participate in the discussion with you and Peter because I was
that's okay.
I was doing some duties that I felt that I had to, and I did find out that my friend, who was a childhood friend, he lived next door to me. He was the left-hander I first learned how to hit against lefties. He passed away from a cancer. It was not from the coronavirus, and it came on very sudden. In fact, I talked to him after the Cotton Bowl, and I knew he was going in to have a check for what he thought was pain in his neck. And then when they got there, they found out his neck was fractured. It was fractured because he had renal cancer from his kidneys that went up his spine into his neck and weakened the neck so much that they were fractured, and there apparently was not much that he could do, and it happened so suddenly. And I will tell you, it really stunned me because I had no idea this was coming. I just did not know, and this guy has always been one of the more positive guys. He was an accountant and a financial planner. Lived in San Diego for many, many, many years. His family is still there, and he was still there until obviously just now. And he was a big, strong guy, and we played a lot of ball against one another. And he's one of the last guys I would have thought that would have passed away at such an early age. So I thank you for doing that without me. And in full disclosure, I wanted people to know this was not about the coronavirus, as I assume some people might have thought that. We take a time out. When we come back, we will talk to Andy Schiffman. This portion of the show brought to you by The Spirit Shop. There's where you go and you can get absolute curbside service. And I went the other day. I actually called in an order. That's the way they work. I talked to Eddie Connor. You can talk to anybody. You call the store and just say, here's what I want. They'll even give you suggestions. And then you call when you're about to enter the store. There are people outside who will come and ask you what your order is. You show them an ID, and you've got your spirits for the weekend. They just have always been that kind of service-oriented spirit shop. So if you want the very best or you want some bargains, they're still trying to cater to whatever you may want when it comes to having some fun this weekend. All you got to do is get it at the curb. That's the Spirit Shop, 4848 Poplar and St. Nick. 2 hours in the books. Back in just a second. This is Sports Time on Sports 56 with Wolo and Stats.
Hilo Commercial Services can help protect your workplace and employees. Call Hilo Commercial Services today to help mitigate the dangerous effects of the coronavirus and the flu virus. Hilo offers complete deep cleaning and sanitizing services for schools, churches, medical facilities, office buildings, residential, warehouses, and more, all customized to your needs. Put safety first with Hilo Commercial Services. Call Philip right now at 901-277-6733. 901-277-6733. It's time for Hilo Commercial Services.
Now, a tournament flashback. Big Ten champs Michigan State picked up the 2 seed in the East region last year and did not disappoint.
Here's Henry, a little crossover, jumps the pass to Brown in the left corner, leaving it behind to Cassius Winston, who lost his headband on the way up. Goins, the 3 on the right wing, good! Kenny Goins with a 3. 11-0 Michigan State run, and it's 56-41. Spartans by 15.
Their 80-63 win over LSU advanced the Spartans to the Elite Eight, where an epic battle with Duke was waiting.
Getting the job done right means working with a team as dedicated to your business as you are. Introducing the Lowe's for Pros loyalty program, built just for pros. Get personalized offers based on the supplies you use most. Track purchases and never miss a beat. And get the tools to manage your business. Why? Because you're the one sweating the details every day. And it's time someone had your back. Enroll today at lowesforpros.com. Do it right for less. Start with Lowe's.
Hi, I'm Troy Fiveash, owner of Fiveash Roofing. Do you have any idea why I never speak the way I am right now? It's because if you're honest, sincere, and knowledgeable, you do not need fast-talking, high-energy, gimmick-promising advertising to get a customer's attention. Speaking of that, how do you think companies can offer huge rebates and giveaways when you use their services or buy their products? By overcharging you in the first place, that's how. Fiveash Roofing doesn't operate that way. It's misleading and dishonest. When I provide a customer with the best products and the best service possible and do it at a fair price, why would I need gimmicks to sell it? Best products, best warranties, and best service possible. That's all we offer. Well, that and financing. Fiveash Roofing, proud partner of the Memphis Tigers and the official roofer of the Memphis Tigers home team. Fiveash Roofing, fair, honest, and ethical. 367-0050 or memphisroofer.com. 367-0050 or memphisroofer.com.
Fiveash Roofing, it's what we do. We're here for you.
We are Sports 56 WHBQ Memphis, WIVG-FM Tunica Memphis, and WPG-FLP Memphis, Flynn Broadcasting Stations. Welcome back to Sportstime on Sports 56 with Wolo and Stats. This hour of Sportstime is brought to you by DeSoto Auto Sales. Here once again are Dave Woloshin and Brett Norsworthy.
This hour brought to you every day by DeSoto Auto Sales down at Goodman Road, 5704 Goodman Road. Visit them online at DeSotoAutoSales.com. Very proud to serve DeSoto County and the surrounding area. 662-890-7184. Come on down to DeSoto County for that town and country experience at DeSoto Auto Sales, where all the cars are test-driven, checked out from head to toe, unlimited inventory, every make, every model, and if it's not on the lot, they'll go out and find it for you. No shortcuts taken at DeSoto Auto Sales. You walk in, you're treated like family by kind, courteous employees, laid-back, down-home atmosphere, no high-pressure sales, but they do care about your time, and they want you to enjoy the ultimate car experience. Exactly what is that? You walk in, within 45 minutes, you test drive your car, get credit approved, paperwork completed, and you're gone in time to do it over your lunch hour or immediately after work. They know we're living in a world today that time really matters, and it's that simple. Check out the referrals at DeSotoAutoSales.com, 5704 Goodman Road, 662-890-7184. Come on down to DeSoto County for that town and country experience at DeSoto Auto Sales.
As always, on Fridays in this time slot, he doesn't let us down. Our agent in Chicago, that would be Andy Schiffman. He joins us now. Let's just start by saying, how are you? How's your family? How are you holding up?
Appreciate it, Dave. Everyone is good back in Memphis. Excuse me. Everyone's good in Chicago. Everyone's on lockdown. 2 days ago, it was a beautiful, warm, 57-degree sunny afternoon. So I took it upon myself to social distance along the lake path, but unfortunately, half of Chicago had the same idea, and then yesterday they announced that they were shutting down all of the lake paths and the trails and the walking paths and the river walks. So there goes that option.
Wow.
So everybody's good, just taking this thing one day at a time like the rest of the world. But I just truly hope people realize now how serious this is. We've actually had two of our own clients affected by this who have tested positive and now are doing great. But the way this thing spreads, we're past the point of just thinking it's not going to affect someone that we know and love, or it's not going to get to us.
It has to, Andy. It has to get real close if it hadn't already gotten close. I don't want you to divulge any names, and sure don't want to violate any ethical standards that I know you have, very high standards. What were their, at their peak of their illness, how bad was it for them? How scared were they?
Well, one had no symptoms whatsoever, but their whole organization did get tested, and he tested positive. And another was one of 4 players that tested positive. He was the only player of the 4 on his team and on the organization, let's say, that experienced any symptoms. The other 3 were asymptomatic. And he said that at its worst, he felt like he had a head cold. and that lasted for about 4 or 5 days. He was quarantined off in a hotel. But last I spoke with him earlier in the week, he was back in his apartment, quarantined there, and felt great. Now, again, that's not to say that anyone that contracts this virus is going to feel great. These guys obviously have the advantage of being elite-level specimens and being young and healthy, and that is something that they have on their side, but doesn't go for the rest of us, unfortunately, a lot of times.
Yeah, I am confused, and I'm not sure medicine quite knows yet. I don't know. Is it he felt no symptoms? Neither did Doris Burke, who came forth and said that she had coronavirus. I don't know if it's a fitness level or if it's genetic makeup. They do say this virus will affect men slightly more than it affects women, and that women actually, by genetics, have a slightly better immune system than men do. But it is puzzling to me. Some people get it, and they get it so bad they need to be on a ventilator, and I think a lot of those have had some respiratory issues to begin with, and then others don't even know they had it, like your guy never had any symptom, didn't even feel bad, and yet he tested positive, so he had it. And how many are there out there that have it, but feel fine, no sweat?
That's what the scary part is, Dave, is that you think about, hopefully, if you look at China, I know this doesn't really relate to basketball, but if you look at China, and let's say they're 2 or 3 months ahead of schedule, so to speak, of the United States, they've got this thing contained. And, I've been dealing a lot with the Chinese Basketball Association there, and the league is trying to resume play. And we've got a number of guys that may or may not go back over there. Everything's kind of on hold because they just shut their borders down starting tomorrow, because the number of cases that they're experiencing now being brought in from outsiders has greatly outnumbered the number of new cases domestically within China. And so it gives me hope for the U.S. if people actually do what we need to do and stay inside. I think China experienced something like a 57-day permanent shutdown where you are not even allowed to go outside whatsoever. The rules and regulations under that government there are obviously significantly more stricter, and not to say that we need to implement that in the U.S., but I do believe it seems like we could be headed in the right direction if people truly bought into the whole notion of staying indoors and social distancing. But you look around and you look on social media, and there's still a number of people that are a little bit trying to think they're above this and can go out and live their lives. And the thing that's scary about it for me is, even if we get to this point where it is contained, the whole thing blew up in the U.S. from one person. It started from one person. And so even if we get to the point where we get to, hopefully sooner than later in the spring, to where the government comes out and restarts the whole country, so to speak, and everyone feels that they're fine, all it takes is one person. I just hope by then that there is a vaccine and there is somewhat of a cure, just like the flu, that if you do get it, you know how to address it and you avoid the risks of falling gravely ill or even worse.
Andy, I want to ask you, because you know it so much better. And Dave, I think you've been there, but Andy, you can tell in visiting with you that you know it well, and I'm very ignorant to it. I will admit that. How come Hong Kong seemed to be so exempt from even when it was ravaging most of China?
Well, geographically, I could not really tell you specifically. Dave may have more insight. Now, I know that Hong Kong is not considered a part of mainland China, so they do kind of operate by their own rules. But in terms of why, let's say, maybe they're less impacted by the virus there, not really. I'm not even sure, to be honest.
Well, it is a bit of ways from mainland China. And, for years and years and years.
It's closer to it than the United States is, though.
Oh, it is. But for years, it was part of the English Empire, and then in an agreement that was made,
or went back to China
the Chinese would take it back under control, and that's since they've done that. That's why we've had these protests, because those that enjoyed freedom when it was a part of the United Kingdom, they don't like the restrictions that have been put upon them by the Chinese federal government, and I cannot tell you why they had less of the virus there, then, like you say, in the United States, there's more cases now than there have been in China. So for that difference in those that are getting sick, I could not tell you the answer. But I do know that Hong Kong is a much more international city, say, than, you go to China, you are in mainland China, you go to Beijing or to any of those cities.
You're in China.
You're in China.
Yeah. You go to Hong Kong, you're going to big London.
It is an entirely different
very westernized
animal, yeah. All right, so you clarify this for me. Was the Chinese Basketball League about to come back and play? Because as you just said, and we had Ted Evan off the business writer for the Commercial Appeal on, and we're going to replay that interview in about 20 minutes or so. But he made the comment that they are starting, even though my coronavirus dashboard tells me that China is now 92% recovered. But he was saying there have been some slippage and that there has been some recurrence of cases of the coronavirus. So I'm a little confused here in that regard. Is the Chinese Basketball League coming back, or are they now taking steps again to delay?
Well, currently they're taking those steps to delay, and it's been an ongoing adventure, so to speak. It keeps me busy every night and every morning because I've got 5 players who are currently under contract in the CBA, all with different teams. One is Memphian Jarnell Stokes. We've got Lance Stevenson, Justin Hamilton, Andrew Nicholson, and another Memphian, Lester Hudson. Now, none of those players are over in China. For different reasons, a couple players were set to go back this week. Now, here's the timeline of things in the last 4 or 5 days, guys, with regards to the CBA. We were set on having our guys report this week because you go into China, no matter who you are, if you're coming into the country, you have to be quarantined. And I've spent a lot of time trying to make sure that the guys going over there would be quarantined in team hotels versus some sort of governmental facility where it's just 4 white walls and a bed. And the other aspect of this is we were expecting the season to start April 15th, and that was announced after they pushed it back from April 2nd. And so woke up Wednesday morning, 2 days ago, to news that heavy rumors, we'll say, that the league would potentially now be postponed until May. Now, there was nothing official from the CBA to that point, but credible sources that I trust, multiple credible sources, provided that information. It was all over the news and social media, so you can only imagine what an American-born player about to hop on a plane to go over to China during all this thinks when he sees that. Needless to say, a couple of our guys who were set to fly did not. That obviously upsets the teams. They say nothing's been official. We're still planning on starting April 15th. And then you wake up yesterday to the news that the country is closing its borders to 95% of outsiders, and those players with work visas that were already established and already valid prior to this, those players now are not able to enter China. And so today the league met, and they've talked about now potentially moving the start date further back to April 28th. But from the import, they're called imports, American players or anyone outside of China, because some are other nationalities, the league quite doesn't understand that no one really wants to go over there and play basketball right now. But the league understands that the whole entire universe of sports is watching them, and they want to show the rest of the world, we have basketball here. We're ready to go play basketball and provide this entertainment, and we're going to show you how great the CBA is. And not to get too political, in my opinion, they don't quite empathize and understand the hesitancy of players outside of China coming over to China to play basketball. They're selling us on everything's safer here. You can come over here. You can take care of yourself. But there's a lot of uncertainty starting with the report date of the league. So as of today, the league has talked about an April 28th start date, which is close to more than 2 weeks after this initial April 15th start date. That could further be pushed back. They've canceled the Korean Basketball League. They've canceled the Japanese Basketball League. They did that yesterday officially. And so around the CBA, everything is being canceled. All the European leagues are closer and closer to being canceled, but they want to start up. And there's just so much uncertainty with regards to the start date, not to mention the impossibility of these players even being able to enter China. So now what I think will happen is we'll continue to see discussions about the league starting. Would not be surprised if we get to the end of April, they push it back even further and resume the league with no import players, or just figure out a way to play with the import players that are already in China, because there's about a dozen or so players that previously left the U.S. to go to China, and now those players are stuck in quarantine. And when they get out, they're just going to have to practice with their team with the uncertainty of if they're going to even resume playing basketball.
Crazy.
Frightening. Andy, Dave brought up a good premise way back around 3 o'clock of the impact of, let's say we have no more sports in 2020 or just into the fall, and we don't get to complete this NBA year. Since we visit with the NBA with you, I want to get your take on it. What veteran player that might have been, we know Vince Carter was at the end, but he wasn't going to the playoffs. Who is a veteran player that missing a chance at this ring may be his last chance to try to go for the gusto?
Oh, wow. I'd have to really stop and think about that one.
It's a toughie.
It is a tough one. I'm just
Could
trying
be
to
Chris Paul.
Could be Chris Paul for sure. I'm trying to think of those players who are over the age of 33, 34 years old.
Well, LeBron is one. He's trying to make a legacy.
36. He's playing until he's 57. We all know that.
Because he's not real. Here's a coach I'm worried about for Mike D'Antoni. I don't know if I don't know if he'll get this close again.
No, I agree. And the way the league is going, and now Houston sort of digging their heels in with this whole notion of small ball, I don't think they could sustain that anyways. And so they'd really have to make some drastic moves and really bring in some younger pieces in the off season to get back to that elite level that they were beginning of the year, last season, et cetera. I still think it would be tough for them to get to the Western Conference Finals, let's say, this year. But you've got a number of veteran guys who are on multi-year contracts that I do think, even if they're older guys in the league, still going to have opportunities. So, yeah, it's interesting. I mean, Vince is an interesting story just because the Hawks weren't going to make the playoffs. Obviously, it's not the way he wanted to end his career. If this is truly the end for him, to have a season cut short. Now, with that being said, if this is his last go-around, maybe he decides to give it one more year because time has benefited him and keeps his legs fresh. So maybe he rethinks that this summer if the season is cut short and he only plays about 70% of the season. I'd really have to kind of stop and rack my brain, though, for some veteran guys that kind of fit that description of what you were talking about. I'll get back to you.
Okay. Well, what are you hearing, seriously, from general managers of your players, presidents of teams of your players, or from the league itself about what they think their future for this particular season is going to be?
So I've talked with the Players Association a couple of times, and I've talked with a number of general managers and assistant general managers around the league over the last few weeks, and I always ask that same question, Dave. And the league has basically come out and said, look, we are not starting up until it's safe to do so, but we are all optimistic that we will resume games. The league has not once said it's very unlikely we're going to resume games or we're going to cancel the season altogether. They're still very optimistic, and they've, along with the board of governors, owners of teams, they've all kicked around ideas of resuming potentially some sort of tournament style in Las Vegas later in the spring, potentially the beginning of the summer, closed off to the public, potentially even in the Bahamas, potentially at a college campus in those arenas where the virus might not be as pervasive. Again, no fans are allowed in these games, but sort of like a tournament-style setup, televised to the public, of course. That has been the most recent idea that I've seen kicked around and proposal, let's say. But then when I talk to general managers, there really is no direction. We're all at the mercy of the timeline of the virus. And no general manager feels that, hey, this is really likely to be canceled, or, hey, I really do think we're going to resume in June. No one truly knows. And apart from the resumption of the NBA season, we touched on it last week, there's the whole notion of the pre-draft process. For me as an agent, I've spent a lot of my time in the last couple of weeks finalizing recruiting meetings because everyone's college season now has ended at the same time. And so these players aren't waiting around to see what happens before they pick their agents. So you can imagine it's a free-for-all, and we just don't know, will players even be allowed to fly around the country to go work out for teams in the pre-draft process? Will they be able to go participate in the NBA Combine? Will there be an NBA Combine? When will the draft be? And it's very, very unnerving to think that the league may even do away with that pre-draft process, because it would be such an anomaly, and an unfair anomaly at that, to now have these players go through the draft process and enter the NBA not having the experience that literally every other draft prospect in the NBA history, to my knowledge, has had. It's a bit concerning, to be honest, and like I said, it hasn't been addressed. We truly just do not know.
Yeah. I wonder this, if indeed they said mid-June you can go, and these playoffs go through August, it would be somewhat the ending of the season that the Atlanta owner has already thrown out there. Do you think the Players Association, do you think that they might actually consider saying, you know what, maybe this is the way it's supposed to be, and we'll start playing, right before Christmas, and we'll end in August, and we'll take on Major League Baseball, and we'll avoid college football and NFL football? Do you think we could really see that?
I do. And I've talked to a few players as well. And it's funny, the question I raised to some of my players, and I say, look, if the season is outright canceled, then you lose 1% of your total salary for each game that is not made up. So let's just call it 25%, prorated all the way to the last payment period, which would be in October 2020. Would you rather miss out on that money knowing that your off season will be at the very least the same lengthwise, time-wise, as it would have been in a normal season or longer? Or would you rather play out the season to make all that money, knowing that there may be a shorter off season, or you might have an off season that overlaps with fall and winter as opposed to the summer months, which is what players love? And so it's interesting to hear that a lot of players, and obviously to each his own, right? Everyone's different. It's a subjective answer, but a lot of players truly value that off-season time. Now, to say 25% of your salary, it all depends on who you ask, but whichever way you slice it, that's a huge sum of money. So I think as long as the off-season is preserved, the players are open to push back a later start date. What I've said is go ahead and experiment next season with a shorter season. Start the season, like you just mentioned, in December. Play 60 games, let's call it, or maybe even 65, and have it run into maybe an extra week or two than normal, but now you still preserve that summer off season. You preserve the pre-draft timeline as it has been up to this point, and see how that shortened schedule goes, and if the players like it, because it is something that the Players Association would be all for. I just don't know if they will actually go so far as to implement that, because the fewer games there are, the less money there is in terms of TV revenue for the league and for the owners.
The only problem I see with that logic, Andy, and I understand it would be experimental, but if you did cut that season short, are players willing to lose the money they would by not
Take
playing
that haircut,
playing the amount of games that are required to pay them the money they're getting?
No, that's the biggest question. I mean, it all comes back to the almighty dollar. That's for sure. It was interesting to me to hear so many guys, I would say, prioritize the off-season time. But again, like I talked about, it depends on how much money is at stake, how much they're making, how their contracts look, etc. But I think that could definitely be a proposal that the league tries out, what you talked about, to play an 82-game schedule with just a later start date to avoid the overlap with college football, with the NFL. Because you think about it, if they start around Christmas, you're into bowl season, the regular season in college football is over, you're into the NFL playoffs, baseball is over, and all eyes would be on the NBA. Now, I haven't dug deep into the numbers to really truly see how the ratings for the NBA are affected by all these other pro sports, but you take out all these other options out of the equation, it doesn't even become an argument, because that's the only thing people will be watching, besides obviously football games on the weekend, if they want to watch professional sports. So it could definitely be beneficial for the league and for the popularity of the league. Now, the way the salary cap has continued to increase over the last 3 or 4 years, the league has not been wanting of popularity, but this whole situation, it just changes everything.
It changes everything is about the best way to put it. We've never seen anything like this in our lifetimes. I mean, I've lived through my fair share of what I would call different times, scandalous times, norm changes, and obviously the last one was 9/11, but this one. Because honestly, this one is going to last a lot longer than I think we really quite understand at this point, and it will.
We're in the first inning.
It'll change the normal for what we thought of as normal, and
we're in the first inning of a 22-inning marathon.
Maybe so.
Exactly.
Thank you, Andy.
You stay safe.
All right,
Please
you guys
do.
stay safe as well. Stay healthy. Appreciate the time.
And we'll do it again
Andy.
next Friday. Thank you so much. That is Andy Schiffman, our agent down in Chicago. This portion of the show is brought to you by that great restaurant group that includes Flight and Coastal Fish Company and Southern Social and the new Porch and Parlor in Midtown. And we had Tom Powers on to talk a little bit about these trying times for the restaurant business, but he wanted everybody to know whether you live downtown where Flight is, or you live Midtown where Porch and Parlor is, or you live in Germantown where Southern Social is, or you live in East Memphis by Coastal Fish Company. They've got curbside service and all kinds of incentives for you to come and pick up what we all know is just outstanding, first-class, wonderful food. And with Coastal Fish Company, they're doing these fish specials every day. You got to realize that fish is flown in special every day, fresh as could be, and they've got a different rotating menu. Go to their website, you'll see what's out there. You can actually pick it up if you call that day, or you could call right now, or if you want it delivered to you, call the day before. And Southern Social and Coastal Fish Company and Flight and Porch and Parlor are doing something very special. They can't wait when we can all be together and go back into their restaurants. In fact, they're going to celebrate it 4 times. Each restaurant's going to have a celebration party. You can buy the tickets for that celebration party right now. And if you do, the money that you give to them right now will be used for their wait staff right now, so they don't have to wait, and the parties will be waiting for you, all paid for, when the time is right. That's Coastal Fish Company, Southern Social, Flight, Porch and Parlor. Always a little step ahead, always making it easy for you to still get their food now with curbside delivery and with delivery. Back in just 1 minute, we had a nice long visit with Ted Evanoff, the beat writer on business for the Commercial Appeal, and frankly, I learned a lot. He will tell you a lot of information when we replay that interview in just 1 minute. This is Sports Time on Sports 56 with Wolo and Stats.
Sports 56 mornings with Peter Edmiston and CJ Hurts. Weekdays from 7 to 10. Only on Sports 56, 96.1 and 87.7 FM.
There's a new commissary in town. In Collierville, Germantown Commissary is doubling. Yeah, they're still going to have the old Germantown Commissary by the tracks, but now there's a huge new Germantown Commissary in Collierville at Poplar and Houston Levee Road. It's huge, too. There's a drive-through. There's plenty of parking. No telephone pole to get in your way. A cool patio. It's right by the track, so the tradition continues. And this is a tradition that's been around forever. That commissary is famous for hickory-smoked, slow-cooked Memphis-style barbecue. They've got a private party room at the new one in Collierville. Self-catering still continues. Party packs for $5.95. Basically, the great ribs, the great pulled shoulder, the great deviled eggs. Everything is there in Collierville and Germantown now. So there is now a Germantown and Collierville style of barbecue. It's called Germantown Commissary.
Here's a message for all you station surfers out there, you changers of the channel. I get it. Life's too short to hang around waiting for something better. So why haven't you made the move to Southland? Maybe you don't like playing longer on the largest slot floor in the region, or maybe you just enjoy the longer drive. But if you think getting there is half the fun, you're probably not having that much fun. Southland Casino Racing. Surprise yourself. Must be 21 plus. Play responsibly. For help quitting, call 1-800-522-4700.
An interesting creature inhabits the flat, arid plains of many an automobile dashboard. The bobblehead. It's most agreeable and will nod along to anything, despite having no brain function. But when the bobblehead hears how Geico not only saves people money, but also gives them access to licensed agents 24/7 online and over the phone, he'll nod even more vigorously because he knows you should switch. Because yes, switching to Geico is a no-brainer. Easy, bobblehead, easy. You're going to get whiplash.
Welcome back to Sports Time on Sports 56 with Wolo and Stats. This hour of Sports Time is brought to you by DeSoto Auto Sales. Here once again are Dave Woloshin and Brett Norsworthy.
Tad Evanoff, the commercial appeal business writer, will join us here momentarily. It's brought to you in part by Conway Services, Heating, Cooling, Plumbing, Electric, and of course, Free Brewery. Won't be long now. We won't have Free Brew in anymore. We've had it longer than normal. Every once in a while, John will do this. He's very generous, and he will carry forth Free Brewery. That's February when you get all kinds of freebies into March, and he's done it this year. So you got another few days to enjoy what I think is just an amazing deal because it gets you brand new technology where you save money on your MLGW bill, and your house is just efficiently cooled or heated. And the way John does this, he gives away, does this every year, an 80% gas furnace if you buy a standard Carrier air conditioning system. They're the best. They really do the job, and they do it at a very good, efficient rate. Then he says, okay, I really want to make this special. This is why we call it Free Brewery. You get an April air cleaner, part of the deal. It's free. 10-year parts warranty, that's free too. The Nest thermostat, latest and greatest when it comes to technology, that's free. And 12 months interest-free. Free Brewery, extended into March. All you do is make the call, 384-3511, 384-3511. Conway Services, Heating, Cooling, Plumbing, Electric. We had the opportunity a little while ago to talk with Ted Evanoff. He's the business writer for the Commercial Appeal. So many different things happening with our economy and unemployment, and Ted was able to sort a lot of this out for us. An honor to talk with Ted Evanoff. I've been reading him for years. Ted is the business writer for the Commercial Appeal. I just read your story today. There's a lot of different things to speak with Ted, with you about. But let's start basically with your impressions of what the mayor has done and what Donald Trump has done so far with the stimulus package, where you think where we are right now economically. Good afternoon.
Well, I think economically right now, Drew, we're looking at a question mark. We haven't seen the bottom of this yet. And I think with the shelter-in-place order on Tuesday from Mayor Jim Strickland, it'll take about a week or so before we know what the full impact of that is. Just before that order took place, the Greater Memphis Chamber did a survey, and they found that about 72% of the companies they contacted were still open, and 34% of those companies had laid off at least one person. We're probably going to see a much, much higher layoff rate once this next survey comes through. There's a stimulus bill. I'm sure most people are aware of this. It's $2.1 trillion. It's massive. It's 10% of U.S. GDP is going out to the country here under this legislation from Washington. It's not really a stimulus. It's really meant to shore up a leaky boat, and that stimulus has some benefits for people who are going to be laid off. It'll provide another $600 a week for 4 months. I believe it's on top of the current amount of money you're getting for unemployment now. So in Tennessee, if you're laid off and you're getting $275 a week, my understanding is this would push that up to $875 a week. And of course, the intention is to keep people spending and keep the economy going. There's also in that measure a lot of money for small businesses to maintain their payrolls and to keep kind of, even if their doors are closed, to keep paying their people. There's something on the order of about $350 billion in small business loans for that purpose. There's also another part of the stimulus is loans to larger businesses of $450 billion in there. The big question is how fast is all this going to roll out? I think right now we're looking at kind of a steep drop-off in employment. Before this stimulus measure was put together, the president of the St. Louis Federal Reserve Bank estimated we might see a 30% unemployment rate in the country. I think that's wildly inaccurate now because the stimulus has come through. But we're probably going to see in Memphis another 40 or 50,000 people laid off here, and that would push the unemployment rate over 10%. We're going to be back to the level where we were, in 2009, 2010, when everything tanked because of that financial crisis. When is all this going to end? The economists say by October, November, business should be returning to normal, and by the first quarter of 2021, we should be looking at more of a normalcy. Although I don't think we're ever going to go back. Let me rephrase that. Although I don't think we're going to immediately go back to where we were in February before all this hit. But we're probably going to look at a lot more layoffs here over the summer in the hospitality sector, the hotels, the restaurants, the museums. Certainly, the retailers are closed down, and the warehouses that supply those two industries are also being hit. What's really strong in Memphis are logistics, not just FedEx, but the truck lines and the distribution centers, as well as manufacturing. And this is a huge medical hub. There are 80,000 healthcare workers in Memphis, 70,000 logistics workers, 45,000 manufacturing workers, and 86,000 government employees. And so you're looking there at about 250,000 people who are probably the majority of them are probably going to come through this in decent shape. All that said, it's kind of a tale of two cities. Hospitality, retail, some of the warehouses linked to those, professional services. If you're an accountant doing business with hotels, that you might be drawing unemployment checks here. And we'll probably see the bottom of this toward July and August.
Let me clarify again what you said about the stimulus package and unemployment, because I thought it was 3.3 million around the country now that have filed for unemployment in the past week. And you said you could get anywhere from $275 to $875 a week through this new stimulus package as unemployment. It seems like those numbers are pretty high.
Yeah, they are. It's I wouldn't say it quite the way you did, up to $875. I mean, look, we've got Memphis is at the corner of three states. Each state has its own policy, and I use Tennessee as an example where, here it's not unusual to get about $275 a week in Tennessee if you've been laid off. I don't know what the Mississippi number is or what the Arkansas number is, but my understanding is the stimulus bill, whatever you're getting in unemployment from the state, the stimulus is going to add another $600 a week for up to 4 months.
Wow.
Ted, I'm with you.
There's about $250 billion in the stimulus bill to extend unemployment insurance to the
Ted,
states.
I'm with you. We shouldn't call it a stimulus bill. This is no more. It was a relief bill. It was to save people that after the Titanic had hit the iceberg. That's what this was. But it was $2 trillion last year. The entire budget for the entire U.S. government, for everything we do, was $4 trillion. In a blink of an eye, this was $2 trillion, and it was not a stimulus. Ted, I want to ask you, and I love your coverage and everything y'all been trying to do on the fly. You're like everybody in the world, and you've got your own lives as well to have concerns about. But I want to take it to sports, and at some point, will y'all get to this angle of it with all the dates that FedEx Forum is now missing between the Grizzlies, concerts, and things like that? Where do those bond payments stand that the Grizzlies would have to make? Where are the Grizzlies' bills that they would have to pay out, like to the University of Memphis that was a tenant this year? And also for AutoZone Park, where would we stand if the Redbirds and Memphis 901 had a year of not a single soul coming through those gates?
That I don't know the answer to that question. I think it's an important question. I don't know the answer. I'm trying to recall when the NBA shut down, the Grizzlies and the FedEx Forum people thought there was enough wherewithal to not have to rely on the city to pay for the bond payment, to make the bond payments. I don't know how long they can run with and before they have to turn to the city. My sense is you could probably negotiate with the bondholders some kind of longer period, sort of a grace period before any sort of default stipulations come into play. But having said all that, I really don't know the answer to the question.
Well, the other wrinkle to that would be, I'm pretty sure with FedEx Forum, I also think it's set up this way with AutoZone Park, but there is a entertainment district that provides money to pay off some of the taxes too. There's in lieu of taxes. There are numbers that have to be put in place, and so. There are so many different wrinkles. If there's no games whatsoever, I'm certain you're right. They're going to have to renegotiate with the bondholders in order to make this work. How long do you think these businesses will remain closed? I know you're not a doctor, and it's going to take some of that. But how long do you think we can sustain the period we're in right now?
That's a great question, and I think that what are we doing? We've organized a recession to create a situation so people don't die from the virus. We're trying to. I mean, I wrote a story the other day and quoted David Waddell, a financial expert in town, saying, what are we doing? We have it's going to take a recession to kill the virus, and that's what we're doing now. Let me throw a number out there. There are 4,000 hospital beds in Memphis, give or take. There are 4,000 beds. What you don't want to do is be in a situation where you have 4,000 really sick people from the Mid-South knocking on the door of the hospitals and saying, "Let me in." The hospital people would say it's not our total beds, it's our intensive care unit beds. They're the ones that are critical. I don't know what that number is, so I'm just going to stick with 4,000. I think what we would have to see in order to have 4,000 patients is something on the order of maybe 15,000, 20,000 cases of coronavirus in the metro area. That's quite a bit. Right now, the metro area is Memphis, Shelby County, and the 8 counties around Shelby County. And in the metro area, there are 329 cases in total detected. By this afternoon, as of this afternoon. So to go from 329 to 14,000, that's quite a hike. Dr. Jane, a physician in Memphis who advised Mayor Strickland on this, he says, we might be able to really knock off the crust, so we don't swamp the hospitals. That's the last thing we want to do is overwhelm the hospitals, and and following the shelter in place and these other measures, we might be able to knock that crest back so we don't really see a huge number. You know, I wrote a piece the other day quoting Dr. James saying we really have to reevaluate every week, maybe every 10 days, to see, you know, can we reduce shelter in place in steps? And he said, we don't know right now. Maybe we could hit the date that President Trump is talking about and starting the march toward normalcy on April 12th. Right now, we don't know. If we can get back to some semblance of normalcy, later in April or mid-April, late April, I think we're going to go back. I don't think we're going to have the shelter-in-place situation going on for a great deal of time longer. Having said all that, the real question is, it's like China. They thought they got it under control, and now it's leaking back in from travelers who are coming into China from other parts of the world. Their people are coming back home, and they're bringing the virus with them. And so in Memphis, we may see a point where in April, it looks good, and then in June or July, the cases start going up again. What we want to see is a situation where there are fewer cases being detected each week. So if there are 329 now, we want 300 next week and 275 the week after that. I don't know when we're going to reach that point. The best case scenario is, as President Trump says, in April, middle of April, we're going to start going back to normal. That seems really optimistic to me. I'm looking at the cases in Mississippi, and DeSoto County is surging, Tahoma County and the Mississippi Delta, Tippah County and Mississippi Hill Country. So there still may be places where these cases sort of leak into Metro Memphis in the same way that China is now seeing more cases leak in. God, I realize having said all that, I probably have convoluted the whole answer, but I don't think anyone knows right now.
2 weeks, it seems to me, Ted, would be very, very tough when Easter comes around. I can't thank you enough for being on with us today. We might have to do this again in a couple of weeks when we have a little bit of a clearer picture. But we thank you so much for your time, and we hope that you stay healthy.
Oh, sure. It was a pleasure. Thank you.
That is Ted Evanoff, business writer for the Commercial Appeal. And we will keep our eye, of course, on that. Some of the things that we learned there I thought were very intriguing indeed. This portion of the show is brought to you by Supercuts. Supercuts, that's the place to go to look good. You still got to look good, don't you? You're going to feel good when you walk out of there, too. You get the hot towel finish. Everybody does. That leaves you invigorated. It leaves you relaxed all at the same time. But the thing is, you're going to get the latest cut because they know every cut. That's what their whole thing is about. Details matter. And there's a lot of places you can go. There are 15 Supercuts throughout the area. The Czech family built this from 130 years ago, and the reason it's grown so well, they do it the right way. So go to supercuts.com, find the location nearest to you, your family, your friends, they'll all thank you because you're going to look good when you walk out of Supercuts. We take a break. When we come back, we've got crunch time and a little bit more. This is Sports Time on Sports 56 with Wolo and Stats.
Search Sports 56 on Facebook and give us a like. And follow us on Twitter at Sports 56 WHBQ.
I'm here with Robert Cox, kitchen manager of the Rendezvous Restaurant. Tell us about those great ribs at the Rendezvous.
Rendezvous stands alone in a unique barbecue style, only found in Memphis, Tennessee. We don't smoke our ribs, we char-broil them. The guys cooking our ribs have been doing it for 30 years. Mr. Charlie Virgos taught the guys the technique himself, and still to this day, they teach newcomers that come in the door. After our ribs come out the pit, we pre-cut every order, so you easily can tear them apart. We baste our ribs on a plate and sprinkle our seasoning all over them.
So, Robert, are ribs what what everyone comes to the Rendezvous for?
The beef brisket is now our second best seller behind the ribs. We also have lamb riblets, half chicken, pork shoulder, chopped chicken, cheese and sausage plate. Nachos are fantastic. We also carry a Greek salad. The list goes on.
Robert, where can we find out more about all of these great options?
Our restaurant menu is online at hogsfly.com, and recently we just added our catering menu online.
Mr. Charlie Burgos' Rendezvous Restaurant, a family-owned restaurant in downtown Memphis, in the alley since 1948.
Your Memphis Tigers football program completed the greatest season in program history with 12 wins, a conference championship, and a berth in the Goodyear Cotton Bowl. Season tickets for the 2020 season are on sale now and start at just $100 when you buy 4 in the family fun zone, or $150 for end zone seating. Get your season tickets by May 15th and receive a free gift, concessions deals, exclusive access to regular season and postseason tickets, and more. Get your season tickets today at GoTigersGo.com or call 901-678-2331. Memphis Tigers football.
Hi, I'm Troy Fiveash, owner of Fiveash Roofing. Can anyone explain to me why anyone would care how I measure your roof? We have all heard about measuring your roof from outer space. Well, to be honest, there are aerial pictures that are taken every 4 years that can be used to measure a building, but it's not from outer space. Besides, no one, and I mean no one, can tell you what's wrong with your roof or even if you need one by using pictures that might be 4 years old. If you would rather do business with a family-owned and operated business with a lifelong tie to Memphis that refuses to mislead or use gimmicks, please give me a call. Best products, best warranties, and the best customer service we know how to provide. Fiveash Roofing, proud partner of the Memphis Tigers and the official roofer of the Memphis Tigers home team. Fiveash Roofing, fair, honest, and ethical. 367-0050 or memphisroofer.com. 367-0050 or memphisroofer.com.
Fiveash Roofing, it's what we do. We're here for you.
Welcome back to Sports Time on Sports 56 with Wolo and Stats. This hour of Sports Time is brought to you by DeSoto Auto Sales. Here once again are Dave Woloshin and Brad Norsworthy.
Final portion of the show. Aaron Rodgers and his travel party that include 3 other people got out of Peru 9 days ago within minutes of the airport closing due to the coronavirus. Wow. You know where he was? He was in Cusco, which I know is a airport that's in a city. Cusco is 10,000 feet altitude. It is where you would land to go to Machu Picchu. I've been to that airport, and he said that he was on a private plane. Had he not been on that private airplane, he had gone fly commercial, they wouldn't have gotten out. They did it like 9 minutes. He goes, you ever saw the movie Argo? It was kind of like that scene at the end. This final portion of our program brought to you by Genesis of Olive Branch, home of the top, in my mind, the best luxury car ever made. The technology in there, and there's such good technology out there. This is so superb. It's so safe. It performs so well. It's you just touch that accelerator and off it will go. You got different options. You can do smart. You can do one that you actually adjust things to. You can do sport. You can do economy. They give you choices, and they do that with climate control and audio control. It's terrific, and it lasts forever. It's a 10-year, 100,000-mile limited powertrain warranty on every car. All you got to do is get to Olive Branch. Take Lamar into Mississippi. Craft Road is the very first exit. Turn left and go see my friends. I think the standard for the way car business should be done. Go see my friends, Chris True in particular, at Genesis of Olive Branch. It's crunch time.
It is crunch time. You are looking live. In your life have you seen anything like that?
We'll take questions again for the student athletes at this time, please.
What's happening, big dog? How you doing?
Is this thing working? It's obviously crunch time.
Hammer, nail, coffin. This baby is over.
Woo! Woo!
Time for Taco Bell Crunch Time. Taco Bell, home of the crispy tortilla chips, topped with a double portion of either seasoned beef or shredded chicken, plus refried beans, nacho cheese sauce, reduced fat sour cream, guacamole, and a 3-cheese blend. Nachos Bel Grande, heaping portion of chips, topped with ground beef, tomatoes, beans, nacho cheese sauce, and a dollop of sour cream. Taco Bell, home to great food you get on your way home real fast, and they bring you crunch time every day. Dave, I loved your supposition early in the show about somebody that could be the in for them or not win a title if they don't do it this year. Here's the team, the Los Angeles Dodgers.
Ooh, you're right.
They've been knocking on the door for a while and just hadn't been able to get in.
And they made the right moves, but as you said, would they all be together in a year? I learned today from Ted Evanoff, and I didn't realize this. If you file for unemployment in the state of Tennessee, you're going to get $275 a week plus $600 from the surplus, $875 a week. Wow, they're not messing around. And stats, since we've been on the air, 14,000 more cases of coronavirus around the world. The United States now over the 100,000 mark, 102,605. That's literally 16,000 more than Italy and 20,000 more than China.
And Monday, when we assemble at 3 o'clock, what will those numbers look like? Monday will be day 17 without sports due to COVID-19. Could do without that. Could also do without this from sports. The Rams and the Ravens totally messed up the Michael Brockers deal. And I think the common denominator in this, it's the Rams. There's a lot of drama with the Rams. Gee, I wonder why.
Oh, I know you hate that owner. But I don't blame you. He absolutely screwed St. Louis. I could have done without this story because I think Wichita State is very important to the American Athletic Conference. Wichita State's lost another one into the transfer portal. This day it's Asbjorn Midtgaard. Who is he? He's the sophomore 7-footer who I don't think has quite lived up to the initial billing. He was supposed to be a big-time player, but he was only a sophomore. He's got 2 more years somewhere to go. So now for Greg Marshall, that's 7 scholarship guys and 1 walk-on that have left. You only get, 13 scholarships? More than half of the scholarship players have left the team. It's incredible.
And, Dave, it's why next year one of the primary members of the Tiger basketball team, it's going to be Stokes. It's going to be Isaiah Stokes. He will be very, very critical for 2020-2021 Tigers. Keeping a close eye on a lot this weekend. The U.S. Open feels like it's really close to an official announcement. Really close. Weekend 3 without sports. Can you believe that? This would have been the weekend that we'd have punched tickets to the Final Four. We also would have welcomed Marc Gasol back the one and only time tomorrow night at FedEx Forum. 9th missed game for the Grizzlies tomorrow night. Monday will be 10.
And how many baseball games would we have missed?
A whole bunch.
Yeah. Incredible. We got to thank Bruce Marshall, Ted Evanoff, Peter Edmiston, and Andy Schiffman for being with us today. I'll let you know, Monday, Greg Akers from the
Memphis Business
will be here, and David Cobb and John Varlas.
John Varlas is going to check in with us on Monday. Look forward to it. Dave, have a great weekend.
You
sorry
too.
For your loss.
You too. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. All of you, please stay safe, stay healthy this weekend. We'll see you on Monday.
Frontier West